Wherever you are in the world, you are settling in nicely, whether that be with a cup of coffee or hot chocolate or tea, or if you're a little bit later in the day and you feel like something a little bit stronger, that you have your favorite tipple with you as well, and you are ready for this morning's drive. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful morning. Looks like it's going to have an incredible sunrise this morning. There's a bit of cloud about. Now I'm just having a look quickly. Seems like hyenas have had an absolute field day on the road here today. Lots of hyena tracks, which is good news. Hopefully the den will be active. I actually might go to the den a little bit later. I haven't quite thought about it until now, actually. I'll have to just check with Jamie and see where she's going. I know she heard a lion calling, so that's where she's going to go off to. But I think we might try and see if we can do the spotted variety. So we're going to do leopard and maybe hyenas. What do you think, Dave?
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Cool. So Dave's on board, which is always a good thing. Now, it's definitely not as cold as it was last night. Last night on the way back was freezing. There was this very cold wind that was blowing, and it was not pleasant at all. Now, just wanted to check. There's so many tracks on this road that there looks like tracks for the wild dogs as well here. So indeed, there are tracks for the dogs. Now, the dogs look like they're going back and forth. So I'm going to just check further up this road, but it does look like they've been here. You can see the road itself is just covered in tracks. So there's just tracks everywhere. Oh, and a pearl spotted owlet calling. That's the pearl spotted owlet. It's one of my favorite calls. It's that call that you often hear early in the morning. Now, this is quite exciting that there are wild dog tracks. This is definitely going to be what I'm going to be following up on. If there's dogs around with hyenas following behind them, then we might be in for a bit of action. So I am going to check around for these guys. Their tracks are all over here, so I need to just work out exactly where they've gone. But it looks like they were all going up the axis. So I'm hoping that they might be lying somewhere close to Sandy Patch area on Vuyatela access. That's where I'm hoping for, but let's see what we get. Now it is still quite dark, so unless these dogs are lying right on the road, it's going to be quite difficult to see them. But given that the grass is so long at the moment, the dogs generally will spend most of their time actually on the road until it gets a little bit lighter, because the reason why is they don't want to be caught out by any lurking predator in the grass, and so they stick to the roads quite a bit and move around on the roads itself. But it doesn't look like a really big pack of dogs. It looks like possibly just the three. Now, I know there have been 3 dogs around recently, so that's what it looks like tracks of. Just the 3 of them. But they definitely had a altercation with hyenas, because all those tracks we saw is the hyenas and the dogs going back and forth at one another. Now, tracks seem to have gone off the road, so I just want to check here. So they're no longer on the road here, so I might have to double back a little bit and just go and check, which is at least exciting news. Promises to be a good morning, Davy. I think we're going to have fun if we find the dogs, so that's going to be a plan, definitely. Feels like it's going to be a morning that's going to get colder as well. It's definitely gotten a little bit colder already since we've been out, so I think it might be quite a chilly start to the day. Alright guys, so we're going to go and get the main show started, so we'll see you all a little bit later. I look forward to having you on board.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, isn't that absolutely gorgeous? What a spectacular start to your live safari adventure. This is Safari Live.
Ready.
Standing by.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Good morning and welcome to a truly gorgeous start to our sunrise safari. My name is Jamie and this morning I have Herman on drive with me. Now Herman is going to be interviewing for a position here, so I'm sure you'll all be very warm in extending your welcomes to him. This is always a bit of a scary thing, being thrown into the deep end, but Herman, I feel like you've got this. You've definitely got this. Yeah. Now we're coming to you live from a place called Djuma Private Game Reserve, which is in the Sabi Sand, the part of the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa, right up in the top northeastern corner of this truly beautiful country. If you would like to interact with us, send through your questions or your comments, you can do that using the hashtag safariLIVE on Twitter. Now you've already seen that the sunrise is truly spectacular. I would tell you what the temperature is, but to be completely honest with you, I'm not entirely sure. 20-ish. Yeah, I agree. 20-ish? 70-ish? 19. My goodness, well done, Herman. It was a very good guess. 19 degrees centigrade, 69 Fahrenheit. Ooh, Fahrenheit, definitely not 69 centigrade, otherwise we'd be in deep trouble. So winter for us, I know where you're all going with this. Winter for us has definitely arrived, and we have a truly spectacular sunrise, and basically I'm just toying for time until it's light enough to take Herman to the hyena den and show him the wonders of that particular place. I have a question for you all, those of you that have been watching the Djuma Dam camera, which for new viewers is a dam camera that is up and operational 24 hours a day. Did any of you see a lion by any chance last night? Did a lion walk past? Because I definitely heard a lion. I was just wondering whether or not you could give me a slight hint. It was coming up from the south, along Weaver's Nest, from what I heard. So I was just wondering whether or not it passed the dam camera or not. I'm going to go with. That would be very, very useful information. Now this morning, Tristan is searching for wild dogs, I believe. I heard a rumor that he's following up on wild dog tracks, so we might give him a hand there, depending upon what happens. I'm going to try and get hold of him in a little bit and just see where those tracks are. Actually, let me just do that now. Tristan. Now is the time to get going and to a wild dog. Apparently Tristan doesn't want to speak to me this morning. I'm offended. Deeply offended. Tristan? Oh, woe is me. Fine. You know what, Herman? We'll find the wild dogs instead. Oh, there he is. Good morning, Tristan. What was the last position of those tracks? Okay, copy. Yeah, that's what I thought. Alright, I'm just going to hang around quarantine just in case. The Impala and everything are still here, so they obviously haven't come through. I just wanted to show you the silhouette of the zebra up against the morning sky because it is it's very pretty. Look at that. Beautiful. Isn't that gorgeous? Now I'm going to sit here and wait for the dogs to come to me. In the meantime, let's send you across to Tristan so he can tell you about his search for them.
Power lines area. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our sunrise safari. My name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got the lovely Dave, who is going to be operating the camera. Now, it is a beautiful, beautiful morning. It's getting quite cold. It's funny enough, it was warmer when we started than what it is now. There's a little sneaky wind that's crept up, and it seems to be cutting through us a little bit and starting to get quite cool. Now, I know Jamie mentioned that she thinks winter's on its way. I really hope not. I'm not a huge fan of the winter. I prefer the nice warm temperatures. I think I'm a tropical creature, so I'm hoping that winter does not kick in too much. But we are on the lookout for some wild dogs. Now, this is very exciting because wild dogs, while Brent absolutely loves them, I'm also a huge fan of them as well. And it looks like the tracks for just 3 of them, so I know there have been 3 hanging around, so I'm just checking to see where they've gone. They were on Vuatela access, and there's tracks for them and hyenas going up and down, so it looks like there was a bit of an altercation between the 2 of them, and they've then moved along. So let's see if we can try and find tracks again. It is quite dark and gloomy still, so it's going to be quite tough to see tracks on small hard roads like this. After the rain that we've had, the roads have become a little bit hard, and it's very difficult to see their tracks here. On Vuatela access, it's very nice because it's this big puffy sandy road and you can see the tracks very, very easily. So I'm hoping that from there they've either gone up towards Gallagher camp or they've come down towards Quarantine side. It'll be interesting to see though which way they go. The problem with them is that if they've had a little bit of an incident with hyenas, which is quite commonplace out here, hyenas and wild dogs are not good friends at all. They often chasing each other all over the place, and they both have a great disdain for one another's presence. So they could be chased, and then they tend to move quite far from there. They don't like to stick around if there's a lot of hyenas. If there's more dogs than hyenas, then the dogs are not too phased, and they then just carry on about their day. I don't see any tracks coming this way. Wait, what we got here? Nope, it's not for them. Oh, it's almost getting light enough now to stop using the spotlight, which will be quite nice. Promises to be quite a beautiful sunrise. The sun hasn't quite popped up over the horizon yet, but there's this big cloud bank that is just above where the sun will be rising, and so as that sun's coming up, soon the clouds are going to be absolutely illuminated by this light, and we should get some really nice colors in there. We should get some nice yellows and pinks, and it will be very, very pretty. Now, the only thing that could make a beautiful African sunrise better, well, there's 2 things this morning. One is if the wind disappears and it gets a little bit warmer, that would be quite nice. And the second would be some bounding, fluffy white tails moving through the bush. That is a sure sign that the wild dogs are there. So that is what we are hoping for. Now, in this particular little open section, there's no sign. And I also stopped just to listen as well, because the thing about wild dogs is they often can be quite vocal, particularly if they've had a little altercation or if there's hyenas around, then you often hear them chattering about as they move. So it's always good just to turn off and listen. Now, I know Jamie's around Quarantine area and she says there's impalas and zebras and everybody looks quite relaxed. So I want to just make 100% sure where these tracks go. So I've come right round again, and it looks like they're still on Vuatela access itself. So maybe just check down towards... So here they all are. Alright, so we are going to carry on looking for these dogs and see where they've gone. And while we do that, let's go back to Jamie and see what she's got for us.
I don't really have anything for you. However, I have some information, which is just that we are lurking in the general direction that those wild dogs might be going in, hopefully. Wild dogs, it's kind of difficult to predict, but that's what we're doing with our morning, is just waiting for them to pop out. And I know they haven't popped out on Quarantine yet, because Quarantine Clearings, which is the open area outside of the camps that we live in, Quarantine Clearings is full of impala and zebra, all of those sorts of animals. If a wild dog pack had come running through, we probably wouldn't be seeing. We might see 1 or 2 very nervous looking impala, but to see an entire herd looking quite comfortable and not at all nervous suggests to me that the wild dogs haven't gone through in that direction yet. So what I've done from there is just gone to go and check south. Although I feel like the minute I leave quarantine clearings, everything is going to... Oh. My sincerest apologies. I had two people talking to me there, and as a result, neither of them came through clearly. Hold on 1 second. Ah, there we go. Safari Show, you say apparently you saw a lion walk past last night from left to right. What's that? Kind of northwest to southeast, I guess. Left to right on the dam camera. My apologies, it sounds as though Rexon has got tracks for the wild dogs. Oh, it's chaos this morning. A lot's happening. Alright, so if he was going from left to right, in theory, it's odd that I heard him calling to the south of us. Could be a different lion. But thank you to Safari Shay for sending that through. Much appreciated. It does honestly really help us in terms of our search for the animals this morning. Because if he was coming from that side, it means he's not going to that side. If that makes any sense. Or he's unlikely to go that way. So then that means that we're on the right track. Whew. Lots of talking on my behalf and listening to the game drive radio at the same time. So the game drive radio is the way in which the various guides communicate with each other. So when we're planning our search first thing in the morning, we have to talk to each other to decide which way we're going to go. And Tristan and Rex are currently having a conversation about which way they're going to go and search. They've picked up on the tracks, or Rexon's picked up on the tracks for wild dogs. Sounds like they're sitting right on our western fringes, so hopefully they don't decide to disappear. Sorry, Megan, I'm still listening with half an ear. Alright, let me just pretend I'm not listening to what's going on. What was that, Megs? Ah. Good stuff. Never mind. Alright, let's go and pay a visit to the hyena den very quickly, since we're here. And I want to wait and see if I can hear the sound of that lion roaring again. He was calling first thing this morning. I have a horrible feeling if he's going south, he's already crossed. So let's go and check the hyena den, and then we'll go carry on and double check that if that is the case. Because he was calling much earlier this morning. And if he's on the move, I've already given him the over boundary. Knock the antenna over. The last time we went to go and pay a visit to the hyena den was yesterday morning, and the elephants came rushing through halfway, just towards the end of the sunrise safari. So let's go and see what else comes to pay a visit. I've found if I go and sit at the hyena den, strange things happen. We've had lions come through, we've had wild dogs come through, elephants. I don't think I've ever had a leopard come through during our hyena clan watchings. Oh, it's a little bit too light. Lots of tracks, hyena tracks that is. Okay. Oh, I always get a sneak glimpse at the hyena den when we come in that you might not necessarily see. So I always know what we're expecting. And I have to confess, this morning it does not look, or yet this morning, it doesn't look as though Ribbon's home. Everybody watch heads. Aww. Nobody's home, unfortunately. Let's just do a double check round the corner. Definitely nobody's home. Well, actually, the cubs are probably here, but they're not out at the moment, and Mom is not home. Awesome, Herman. Very well done. Alright, I'm going to go off in search of this male lion. While I do that, let's find out where Tristan is and how the wild dog tracks are treating him.
Indeed, we are still on the tracks. So the tracks came down from vertical access and down onto Zoe's road, and they're now heading in a southwesterly direction. So we're trying to just do a loop around to make sure they haven't come out yet. Now, the problem with wild dogs is that they move so quick, and so you've got to kind of get a little bit of a move on when you're doing this. It makes tracking quite fun because everything is so fast paced, and it feels like you're in a Formula One race and a pit stop. Every time you stop to look for the tracks, it's like you've got to determine where they're going in a few seconds before you then dash off on those tracks and try and find them. So hopefully they're going to pop out somewhere here. If they don't come out here, then they would have come out onto Triple M side and maybe gone towards Arethusa, which is where I think they would have gone. But I just want to make sure down here, Rexon is helping me in the area, so he's also looking and checking further to my western side to make sure if they didn't come that way. It's always good just to check at these junctions of the roads, because wild dogs, not like lions and leopards that have a very specific sort of path that they like to walk and they follow that road. Dogs are quite chaotic. They'll go that way and then they come this way, and so you always got to check around junction areas, because sometimes they'll run up the road and then they come back again. So, which is exactly what they did at vertical access. They were back and forth on vertical access and then turned south down Zoe's. Now I can see one or two impalas around as I go around these corners, which means that the wild dogs are probably not here, because anywhere where a wild dog is, the impala does not want to be at all. Now, I just want to see. So just checking here carefully, just to make sure no sign. So no tracks here that I can see. I can see Rex is coming up in front of me as well, so I might just have a little chat to him just to see if he's picked up anything, because ultimately he's done a whole loop as well. So if he's picked up something, then I can follow up from there. Unfortunately for him, he can't go into Arethusa, so if they've crossed into Arethusa, then at least we can go and carry on following up there, which is good news. But like I say, wild dogs are so difficult in this regard, because you've got to go back and forth and check, and the problem is they move so quickly that you've got to do things quite fast. It's often a sign of quite good trackers is the guys that can be able to determine where the dogs go in a quick manner. So James, you're asking if wild dogs are in such low numbers and there's so few of them left, how have they avoided getting a genetic bottleneck? Well, it's getting to the point where that is going to start happening. So the species is still quite healthy in terms of numbers and enough genetic variety for them to breed and not have any issues. If we had to go to something like a cheetah, which went down to fewer than 200 individuals at one point, hello everybody, there were a lot less of them than what there is wild dogs. Wild dogs, there's still quite a few. In the Kruger Park alone, there's over 220 of them. So in all likelihood, there's still quite a vast array of genetics that can be bred out. You've got wild dogs in Tanzania, in Zimbabwe, you've got them in Botswana. So there's still some hope for them. Unfortunately, with cheetahs, that they went down to the point where there were so few of them and then bred back up that they have this genetic problem that we see on them. Now, I see Rexon is here and he's saying that the tracks are all over here. Yeah, okay, cool. Thanks, Rex. I'm going to go check Zebra Drive and then go around. Let me just get past you so I can let the truck go past. So there's a truck that's behind us. This is a main access road for us. So it seems like the dogs were moving all over this area and then they've gone into Arethusa. So I'm going to try and see if I can just get around onto Zebra Drive and see if there's any signs here. But yes, as the dogs get less and less... Oh, Darby, look at that. Isn't that quite spectacular? The clouds are glowing red. Now, I know we're tracking wild dogs and we need to move quite quickly, but that is worth a stop just to have a look. Very, very, very pretty. And it's exactly what we were talking about earlier. As that sun's going to come up, it's just going to illuminate all of these clouds with this beautiful light. Isn't that spectacular? What a way to start the day. Wild dog tracks, a sunrise. It's all happening. What do you reckon, Davy? All good? Yeah. Exactly. All right. Let's see now if we can find these dogs. If it is the pack that I think it could be, because I've now seen on the road there's a lot more tracks than just the 3 that I initially thought, then it could be the Sands pack. Now, the Sands pack likes to spend time around Arethusa, so we're going to just check around and see where they've gotten to. So, Hunter, you're asking if the wild dog can be bred to repopulate certain areas. Well, they could indeed, Hunter, and in fact, there's a lot of programs at the moment where they're trying to get the numbers of wild dogs back up, and they are relocating wild dogs from certain areas that have got good populations. So like in a Zamanga game reserve down in KZN, they're a small fenced off area and the dogs are breeding so well there that they're then moving those dogs outwards to other reserves. And they used to think that it was very difficult to relocate dogs, but they've come up with a few new techniques where they use boundaries to scent mark. Oh, that sunset rise is just absolutely magnificent with these dead trees. Isn't that amazing? It's absolutely beautiful. Oh, and there's a woodpecker in the background as well. A couple fork-tailed drongos also calling, some starlings. What a beautiful morning. Sure. All right, so as I was saying, yes, they have been breeding them and then they move them into certain areas. The problem with the wild dogs is that they need massive space to move around in. So even if you want to breed them and get their numbers up, they need to have a huge area so that they can stay fit and healthy, and then also they need to be relocated as an entire pack. It's very difficult to take members of a pack and mix them with any other dogs. So you want to be a bit careful with that, but I know they've just moved wild dogs to a part of Botswana called Mashatu. There's been wild dogs moved up into this area, into around Hoedspruit, into a reserve called the Blue Canyon Conservancy, which had a huge rabies outbreak, and their dogs unfortunately died from that rabies, and so they moved new dogs there. So yes, it is possible, and hopefully they will get them right and they will be able to start getting them into more of the reserves. But like I said, the other problem that wild dogs face is that their ability to hunt and the way that they hunt means that they are very, very difficult to keep in an area that is fenced off. So any of these big reserves where we've got lots of space and they can move around quite a bit, then it's not a problem, because there's a natural sort of birthing process of all the animals and the wild dogs feed, but it all balances out. But in those fenced off areas, often the wild dogs feed too much for the area and they kill too many of the young, and so people actually don't really want wild dogs, and that's the biggest problem. So hopefully people will start changing their mindsets a little bit, and hopefully we'll get them into more parks across Africa The other problem with the wild dog is that it's notorious at breaking out of fenced areas. So even if you have a fenced part of the reserve, they tend to break out very, very quickly and easily, and they tend to be able to be a bit of a Houdini effect, and they cross boundaries and they go all over the place. So even if you introduce them in, let's say, the Kruger Park system, they could end up going into Zimbabwe, and from Zimbabwe up into Zambia and places like that. So it's quite difficult to relocate them and keep them there. And that's why with the new sort of techniques that they're using, they're trying to use scent to try and keep the wild dogs in, and also when they release them, they put them into a boma first, that they get used to this barrier of a fence line, that they don't then cross it nearly as much. But I was talking to a researcher for the dogs the other day, and he was telling me that the dogs move telling me that the longest sort of record of dogs moving is they released them in South Africa, and then eventually the GPS collar went dead on the northern side of Botswana. So they crossed pretty much 2 countries in a few weeks to be able to get where they wanted to go. So they are an animal that moves very, very fast. Now, Michael, you're wondering how long it takes for 2 dispersal packs to meet up with one another, and well, it depends. There's so many different ways that they can meet up. Also, because of the density of dogs, often it takes them very, very long, because they run in different areas and they have different places that they like to hunt and move around in. So it just depends. It's not always easy for them to find one another. But I mean, it's a matter of almost like how long is a piece of string. So also, you're wondering if there's any initial aggression between dispersal packs. Most definitely. When wild dogs see one another, they are still quite territorial in that they'll chase one another. The only time you find that there's no real aggression is if it's young males and young females that have dispersed out of the pack and are now looking for a different den, and the males pick up on the female and they know that this is a potential mating right. Then they're a little bit more tolerant. But generally, if it's 2 different packs that meet, then normally you find quite a bit of aggression. I actually had a sighting right where we saw Rexon a few years ago with a pack that came in from the Manyeleti and a pack from the Sands, and it was 7 dogs from the Sands and 31 from the Manyeleti, and these 40 wild dogs had a huge fight in that area, and wild dogs just separated everywhere. They were chasing one another, and we were finding wild dogs across this whole section, just 1 or 2 dogs running around. It was chaotic, and it was because they were all chasing one another. And eventually, even the own pack, in the sort of frenzy of what was going on, actually started chasing one another, and then they realized, oh, hang on, this is part of my pack, and it all calmed down again, and eventually they then came back together. But it took the one pack, it took them about 4 or 5 days for them to find each other. So maybe that hopefully answers the dispersal part of it. Now, I haven't seen any further sign, but on the road that we're on now, it's almost impossible. This is baked so hard, it's almost like concrete. So it's going to be very difficult to see the tracks on this road. Saying that, it looks like they did come here. I just need to find a direction as to which way they went. Dogs, this is the thing about wild dogs, is that they can cover so much distance. Those tracks are quite fresh. They're on top of everything. Now, there was a truck that we saw. Oh. So, while we're tracking wild dogs, there's also tracks here for Shadow. The leopard, she's been walking down here as well. So we might just follow these. These look quite fresh too, and just see. Maybe we get wild dogs and Shadow together. Wouldn't that be quite something? So while we carry on and try and see if we can find and decode the mystery of the wild dogs, let's go across to Jamie and see how she's doing with her lion tracking.
I am decoding a mystery of my own, Tristan, in answer, and it's got absolutely nothing to do with lions. As much as I want to see a lion, I've just found very fresh leopard tracks in the direction that I was going towards that lion, so I'm distracted as well. Now, presumably, because I heard Tristan had leopard tracks as well, presumably that is not the same set of tracks that I'm following. And the reason that I say that is I think Tristan mentioned Shadow. I am not following a female leopard, I'm following a male leopard. And interestingly enough, And if I find them again, I'll try and show you what I mean. I don't think that this leopard is fully sound on all four legs. And what I mean by that is the tracks are not falling where they should. The left back leg keeps falling inside of the left front leg. So it looks as though this leopard has a limp or something that's not, because generally when a leopard walks, they walk right front, right back will fall on top of each other. Left front, left back will fall on top of each other. And with this one, it was so misaligned that initially I mistook it for a hyena. And I just need to chat to Brent if he'd give me an opportunity. Oh, never mind. There he goes. Okay, this tracks didn't come out here. Alright, this leopard hasn't popped out here. If it's Tingana, and my suspicion that it is Tingana, just by the size of those tracks, unless it's that young male again hanging around, I'm just going to go and check Treehouse Dam, because Tingana likes to walk along that area. I just want to chat to Brent. Just have to try and get a word in edgeways. Brent. Brent, just check carefully along Philemon's dip as you come through. This Mandora Ingwe looks like he went off just before the Miskaya of Weaver's Nest. I'm just going to go check Scavenger's track, see if he popped out there, but he hasn't come out of Philemon's cut line. Philemon's cut line, junction, Shabam Road. Brent says to stand by here, he'll be with me in 2 minutes. What shall we look at, Harman? Shall we look at the beautiful clouds while we wait patiently for Brent to arrive?
Yeah, I could swing back.
You could swing back. I bet you could. That is very pretty. It's pretty about the aerial, but that's entirely my fault in terms of positioning. No, that is entirely my fault. We've got the exciting prospect of waiting for the bushwalk team. I don't want to stand by. I want to go tracking. I don't want to sit here at the junction. I want to go and find exciting things. Or alternatively sit on that termite mound over there and lie in the sun, where it's nice and warm. Maybe there's a leopard there. Let's have a look. Meg's asked me to talk about daylight savings, which apparently starts tomorrow. And we will... Okay. I'm just listening to Megan. Okay, so Meg says daylight savings starts tomorrow for those of you presumably in the States. Oh, actually, the rest of the world over. Those of you with daylight savings, we will be posting the times on social media. So tune in our drive. So there you go. We will be helping you out with that. Daylight savings used to confuse me like you cannot believe when I lived in the UK. It really, really did. I could not grasp this idea because it's not something we have in South Africa. So we've never grown up with it. And the idea of losing or gaining an hour in my day just completely flummoxed me. And of course, as a university student, losing an hour of sleep was really quite tragic. Ah, look here. Bushwalk team. I hope they know we're live. What's going on? Is Herbie hiding? I don't see Herbie at all.
Hello.
Morning.
Gonna go see if we find some leopards.
Oh, bye.
Did they just scoff our animal?
I'm not sure. That was odd. That was really odd. And what on earth was Brian doing on the floor of the Mahindra? Was that Brian? I couldn't even tell. I don't know. This place is a madhouse. Complete and utter madhouse. I'm going that way, apparently. I thought I was sitting at that junction for a reason. Thought we were gonna have a conversation, nice cup of tea maybe. Utterly bizarre. Yeah, you are absolutely right, Herman. He came to steal our leopard. Let's go find it before they do. Ha! Let's go check Ingbe. The challenge is on. Herman's only just beginning to know the competition that happens at safariLIVE. That was so weird. What on earth was going on there?
Looks like a ticket, probably.
Megan says she has no idea. Well, I'm glad we're all on the same page, Megs. Hammond says it looks like a trick. It probably is a trick. What do they know that we don't? I've got this vague feeling they know something that we don't. I'm not very good at not knowing something that somebody else does. Ah, now Liz, you would like to know a little bit about Herman, who is from Joburg. Herman, how old are you? 25. Liz, what would we like to know about Herman? We were chatting earlier, because actually, honestly... Ah! Now, Liz, let me spell it for you. H-E-R-M-A-N. Herman. Herman? Herman? I'll tell you what. Let me do this. Let me switch off and you can... How's your ambient mic looking? No. Okay, so you'll have to talk into my hat. This is Herman.
Hello.
There he is. That was a fantastic shot up his nostrils. And Herman's here on job interview. Now Herman is from Johannesburg and 25 years old. What have you been up to before you were here?
Yeah, small history and music videos, corporate shoots. Yeah, did a bit of film school as well. Traveled all over Joburg and Cape Town, and yeah, I've always been in love with nature and National Geographic and BBC Earth and those things. So I'm very, very happy and thankful to be able to get the opportunity to show you guys exactly the magic that we're capturing here on safariLIVE.
That was a very good answer. A very good answer. I am super impressed. So Herman has a passion for nature. Now we're going to have to show him what nature truly means by finding the leopard first, before Brent and the rest of the walking team. No, I'm joking, of course. Well, Herman, you're in the right place for somebody with a passion for... And I mean, I was talking to Herman earlier, and I feel as though completely and utterly, but at the same time, to film wildlife live. If you fluff the shot, you fluff the shot. It's gone. That opportunity is missed. And our cameramen very seldom fluff the shot. They are truly extraordinary in what they do. And they are the unsung heroes. And I'm feeling I'm waxing a little bit poetic because, of course, Brian's leaving and we're all a little bit broken-hearted. But I really don't think there are many people out there with the kind of skill where we can go, there's a bird, and I mean, we've got this at least 180-degree view of vegetation around us, and your cameraman's on it, finding that bird for you. It's extraordinary. Or sometimes when you're sitting watching a sighting on your monitor and you're not really paying attention to what's going on around you, and they've picked up on something that you haven't even seen. We're very fortunate in that regard. I can only say I imagine that safariLIVE would be the best camera operating training in the planet.
Hands-on.
Hands-on is absolutely right. Especially when you're bumping around in the back of the vehicle, doing a wild dog shoot, well, filming wild dogs while we're racing along at high speed. It's a very, very unique kind of a job. Okay, if this leopard hasn't popped out here, he's not going to, because those tracks disappeared directly in line with me. You briefly saw the bushwalk team on their own kind of mission, despite my attempts to chat to them. Let's go and find out. They're obviously very excited about what they're doing. Let's go and find out what that is.
Morning and welcome to the morning bushwalk. It is a very chilly morning, and you might have noticed as we sped past Jamie a little bit earlier, you couldn't see anyone else, and that's because the towel boy was hiding under a towel. I'm not joking. Craig didn't bring a jersey on the vehicle. I can't even see into the sun. So he was hiding below the seats under a towel to try to keep warm. We've made our way towards the junction of Shibam Road and Gowrie Main, and what we're doing here is we're looking for any tracks of the big cats. Hello, yes, hello, carry on. Move along now. Someone had to leave early this morning. They missed their morning game drive. Poor them. So, of course, this is the last area Hosanna and Shangile were found. So I'm just trying to make sure there's no tracks of them crossing this road. And if there aren't any tracks, then we're going to work this block to the north of us. And hopefully we're going to find them. Also, if they have crossed, we're going to go try head onto those tracks that Jamie has. They're not too far from here, and see what we can find. So, of course, my name is Brent Smith. I have Batman, no, cancel, strike Batman. We have the towel boy, Craig Zammit, on camera today. And he's looking at me, so you can't call me a towel boy. I am going to call you a towel boy. So if I ask for a towel during the drive, you'll know I'll be talking to Craig. So hopefully we're going to get some luck with these big cats. Now, I spoke to Tristan. He said he had really fresh tracks of only Hosanna crossing the road yesterday evening, which means if Karula hasn't returned, Shongile is still here somewhere. And of course, she's one of my favorites, so hopefully we'll be able to find her. They were lying up around the quarry when they were last left yesterday morning, and I'm hoping they're still in this area. So far we've only got some nice big elephant bull tracks, but they're going the other way. Let me look at that. Boom, size 14. 2 size 12s in a row. Now, of course, this is UK size 12. I'm now being hit in the head with the aerial by Towel Boy. Thank you. Carrying on. So I'm hoping we're going to have a splendid morning. It is very cold. Well, relatively speaking for us. And I suppose winter seems like it's arrived early. It has been a very mild and cool summer compared to what we're used to experiencing. I think we've only gone over 40 degrees once. So maybe winter's coming early. And I think it's going to be a cold one. Now, this is an area where I want to look carefully for tracks. Remember, hashtag safariLIVE on Twitter. Ooh, and the other big news is that the warmest person at Wild Earth is Megan. Megan, this is Megan's first time directing me. Oh, pressure, Megs. It's all on you. Now, of course, I'm joking, but she's wearing a lovely knitted jersey that was knitted by her gran to keep her warm. So we're listening for all sorts of things. I can hear some little birds alarm calling. And then where the leopard cubs are, that's often a very good sign. So let's go down here. Now, there's a lot of elephant tracks overnight in this area, so they could have easily chased the leopards. I do not see any tracks going to the south or coming back. So maybe Hosanna's just gone on a meander. which means little Shongile is going to be close by. Now, we've been quite lucky because we've often found them up in trees. That is not going to be the case unless they've got a kill on a morning like this. It's cool, they're probably going to be moving around, and if they're not moving around, they're going to be huddled into a little ball of warmth under a bush or under a tree. We're having a look very carefully here. Now, fortunately, the wind has died down compared to yesterday. I mean, there is still a very chilly breeze out there, but it's not gusting at 40 knots. It's probably at about 8 knots, that is. Watch out, there's a hole there, Craig. Phil says, what bird sounds like I'm a pretty bird? We heard it calling on the dam cam last night. Phil, Bill, the only one I can think that you would have heard on the dam cam that did not stop calling last night was the monotonous lark. Maybe we can get Tristan to play you the call. Of course, we're on walk, we don't have all the gadgets with us that we normally do. Now, when the wind's blowing, you've got to be very, very conscious of using your ears. Now, I'm not sure whether this bird is alarming. I don't think it's alarming a leopard. It sounds like it's more of an argument between birds, because now there's a fork-tailed drongo getting involved. We're looking for any sign of those little cats. Of course, for those of you who've been watching, I have set myself a very difficult task. It's become very difficult with the change in weather, and that was to get to 100 bird species by tomorrow. And I think I'm on about 60, so I've got to try find 40 between the next 2 drives. And also, as a lot of you know, a very, very sad event, that Brian is leaving us quite soon. And last year we had a killer bee day, which was in August, but this afternoon will also be the killer bee day, or a killer bee afternoon at least, and it'll be the last drive that the killer bees take together. So please remember to join us on the Sunset Safari for that. It will be a celebration of Brian. Okay, we need to get this one on camera, Craig. Not the ones at the top. There's one in the small tree in front of us. It's called the Southern Black Tit. Oh, there he goes. Oh no, he's gone. We're going to have to find another one. Michael, you were wondering when is the fireside chat. It will be in the last 15 minutes of the Sunset Safari today. And there we go. There will be quite a few of us there saying our farewells and wishing Brian the best. Oh dear, we're going to miss him a lot. We really are. He has been such an integral part of our team, but this is the right decision for Brian at the moment. And we will take questions, and Brian will answer the questions. So we look forward to hearing from you on the Sunset Safari about that. So we're not going to focus on that today. We're going to focus on finding some leopards. Or this morning, we'll focus on that this afternoon. Okay. As I said, I think there was birds fighting with birds, so we're going to check along here very carefully, see if we can find any tracks of that of any of those cats. While we do that, let's go see what Tristan is up to.
So we're also still in our tracking mode. It's a bit of a tough one to track at the moment because we found Shadow's tracks with the little cub tracks with her, so those are there. Then the wild dog tracks are going over the top of hers, so it's all in the same place really. And like I say, getting a bit confused as to which one we actually want to follow. The dogs have been found, but they ride up on the Simambili Arathusa cut line, so whether or not we're going to get to see them is anyone's guess at this stage. So what I think we might do is try and get to see them and then come back down and try and track around for Shadow and her cubs. I did check her den site because the den site is open now, so I went and had a look, but that den site where she was, where James had her, is actually all flooded and full of water, so it's not going to be a very good den for a leopard at all. So I think in all likelihood she's probably not using that, but just somewhere close by where it's quite dense and thick. Now it'll be interesting to see what she did if she came across those dogs. It doesn't look like there was any scuffling or altercation. The dogs simply just ran straight across where she had gone. So I'm sure she is around somewhere close by. It's just a matter of finding her. The other problem is Shadow is not a nice leopard to walk on foot. She's a little bit grumpy, and when she's got tiny little babies in grass this long, it is not a good idea to be walking around too much in the... So I found her tracks here now as well, carrying on going. It looks like she doesn't have the cubs with her anymore, but talking about tracking, Brent seems to have some very large pachyderms on foot, so let's go across to him.
Now, we're keeping our distance on foot, especially with this windy weather. The elephants can be quite unrelaxed. They've disappeared there, Craig. So we immediately moved up to some high ground. We're on a big termite mound, and the elephants are slowly moving into Djuma. And of course, you've got to be very, very careful with elephants in general, but in this wind that's gusting around today, you've got to even be more careful. And those elephants did not even see us, but they could hear us. So what I did is I let them know where I was. Made a little bit of a noise, tails went up, and they moved away from us. So you don't really want to surprise animals. Craig, we're on a termite mound. I know it's a bit of a nemesis of yours. Are you going to be able to come down?
No.
Okay. Let's see what the towel boy's got this morning, because this is quite a steep termite mound we've gone up. I'll catch you, Craig. There we go. So the elephants have moved off that way. I'm just going to make sure, because what elephants sometimes do is they'll come round to double check, and we don't want that, especially when we're focused on tracking. Well, it looks like they've moved off. Okay, so we're going to go quietly through, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to loop back onto the southern boundary and head north, because I don't think the cubs have come this far. There's no sign, and if the elephants find them, they're going to trumpet and make a noise, so we'll be able to hear that. While we do that, let's go see what Jamie's been up to.
That sounds like a lovely plan for this morning. Creeping up on elephants. At least it's not windy anymore. In the meantime, I'm continuing the search for this mystery male leopard. Not necessarily mystery, it's probably Tingana. I just can't work out where he's gone. I cannot find any sign of him anywhere. I had his tracks disappearing into a drainage line. It makes me think that he's there somewhere. The problem with Tingana is if you go after him on foot, if he sees you, he slinks off. He's kind of like Shadow in that respect. He slinks off and vanishes so quickly. He doesn't necessarily stick around. It's not like Karula, tracking Karula and her cubs, who are so kind to us on foot, so relaxed. It seems as though everyone's having luck with Ellie's but us. Let's go and have a look at Tristan's Ellie's.
We are indeed, although we're getting the backside of this young bull elephant. It's busy walking away from us, but it is in the most beautiful morning light. It's almost got that gold coloration from the light that's on it is looking very dapper in this morning. Now, here's mobile into a horrible place. It seems like, even though we are all having luck with elephants, that they're all disappearing on us. I know Brent had them disappear on his walk, and this one seems to be going as well. But the road does move around slightly, so I'm just going to go around and see. Now, the tracks for Shadow are still on this road. It looks like she's left her cubs behind, back where we were, and she's continued down the road this direction. So I'm going to try to see if we can find her. The news on the wild dogs front is that they've unfortunately crossed into Samambili, but it is for the Investic pack now. The Investic pack tends to spend more time on our side, so I'm sure they're going to come around back to where we are. And then the Sands pack has also been found not too far on Elephant Plain. So earlier we were talking about what two packs will do if they run into each other. Now, if either one decides to move a little bit more from where they are, they could potentially bump into one another, which would be quite interesting to see. But the downside to all of this is that there are none of them on our side, which is not ideal, but hopefully they'll come this way. Like I said, the Investic pack seems to have gone northwards, and it almost looks like they're bending back towards Vuatela now, so I'm hoping they'll come out. Now, I did have a brief glimpse of this elephant again, but I'm just trying to find him. Sorry, Darby, let me just go forward a little bit. As you can see, it's quite dense and thick in here. So this is called the Bee-Eater block. Now, the Bee-Eater block is only for the bravest of souls to go off-roading in. It is a nightmare of intertwined thickets and stumps that are not good for any vehicle. It is horrible inside there. Now, Shadow absolutely loves this block. She's always inside here, and it's why it becomes difficult to find her. She either goes into this Bee-Eater block, or on the northern side of me, she goes into a donga thicket, and you can see on this side it is just wall-to-wall trees. So she has the perfect places to be able to go and hide away and be her elusive self. Mike and Michelle, well, you want to know about male and female leopard tracks. Well, I'm going to try to see if I can find Shadow's track quickly, that I can then explain this to you a little bit more clearly and the difference between the two. So I'm just having a little look here to see where they've gone. They might have been on the other side of the road now. Sorry, it's a little bit difficult where we are, but essentially what you have is a situation where the female track is a lot smaller than the males. It tends to be almost half the size of an adult male. So an adult female will be about probably that size, so not very big, whereas an adult male will be about that size, so much larger. Now you would say, what about young females and young males? Well, generally if you have a young male, he's going to have still bigger feet than a female, and they tend to be a lot rounder. The females tend to have a more elongated oval shaped track, whereas the males is a almost circular round shape like that. Also on the male's track, when you have at the back paw side, so he'll have a lobe that comes down and then it forms 3 lobes. This lobe here is circular in shape, so if you had to run around, you'll take the sort of shape and it will come into the track, whereas on a female it's very angular, so it will go like that and it will go out, so that you won't be able to form a full circle, whereas the male one is like that at the back of the pad, female like that. Alright, so that's how you can tell male and female. It's much easier if I can actually see the track, but I'll try and find Shadow's track here. I'm hoping it hasn't gone off the road and I can actually show you where it's gone. Okay, they're this side here, which is, let's see if I can get them on camera for you. So if you have a look there, I don't know, Dave, can you see them? I'll jump out so that I can show you quickly. Which one are you focusing on, Dave? I haven't. Okay. I'm just trying to see which is going to be the best one for you. Maybe one of these ones here? Too close. Okay, I'm trying to find a decent one that we can see nicely. Can you see any of these, Dave? Or is this a little bit far for you? This one here. Okay, so you can see the size of this track is very small. It's like that. A male would be double the size. Now, Shadow is also quite a small female. She's not a very big girl, so her track is a little bit smaller. In fact, if you saw these, you would probably think that this is a young female, but in actual fact, she's a fully grown adult female. But her track is very, very, very small, and you can see that this is the front paw, so it is a little bit more rounded, but it will be a more elongated oval shape than what you'd see with a male. A male would be a lot more circular, and like I say, almost double the size of that. Now, I believe Brent is shouting at me on the radio and trying to get hold of me, so I'm going to try and talk to him. I wonder what updates he has for me. Maybe he's found something that he wants to let us know about. Brent is often listening in on the radio channels, and sometimes where we are here on Arathusa, we can't hear very nicely as to what's going on. So I'm going to actually just give Brent a little call on the radio and have a quick chat to him. But encouraging that the tracks are still going down the road. Brent. So Brent is not answering my calls. Maybe he's ignoring me. He doesn't want to hear from me. So I think what he's trying to tell me is that the dogs have crossed into Vuyatela, because I'm just listening to the radio, but I'm going to try and see if I can just get hold of Brent. So it sounds like the dogs are crossing. That's what he wanted to tell me. Well, thank you very much, Brent. That's very kind of you. I'm still going to have to come around a little bit and see. But I don't know, because the guys on this side where we are, because I've got both channels coming into my ear, are saying that the dogs are still here. So maybe it's just tracks from them from earlier. I'm not sure. I shall have to just wait and see. Brent. Okay, copy. Thanks, but I'm quite far now. I'm just busy with these tracks for Shadow. So Brent is giving me an update that one of the Nkoro rangers actually had tracks for a cheetah all the way around Cheetah Plain side, but we are very, very, very far from there. So if we do not have any success with Shadow, then we might go that way, but it is a long way away, and there's no guarantee that that cheetah is even lying up on Cheetah Plains. It might have gone straight south and down into Mala Mala. They can sometimes cross Cheetah Plains very quickly, so might be an afternoon pursuit, that one, not for now. Right, so talking of Brent and talking of the man himself, let's go across to him and see where he's walking to at this stage.
Shongile has been playing havoc with us. So we walked through here, we spotted those elephants, and we moved away. Now we've just come back to where we were earlier, and our footprints are right here, and her tracks are on top of the footprints. I think she's been following us. So we were just checking in here around, oh, elephants. I can hear elephants again. Breaking branches to the south of us. Wind is in our favor, so I'm not too worried. Making sure I'm just listening very carefully. I'm just going to wait for that car to go past so I can use my ears properly. Okay, let's carry on. So we were just here. There's Shongile's tracks. On top of our tracks, going east. So she's very, very close. Where are you, little princess? exciting. Now, every time you approach a leopard, a lion, oh, there's a wild dog track here as well. Now, the reason I know this is a wild dog, not a hyena, is hyenas are generally quite wide at the base, and their claws sort of go at angles opposite each other, where the wild dog's front claws are almost very vertical. So if I had to draw sort of a general impression of a wild dog track, because the front two toes almost are connected to the claws like that. I'm not very good at drawing tracks with grass, at least. Whereas a hyena's, the claws will be curved in like that. There's been wild dogs here as well. So let's keep checking. Now, another thing, when you're walking, you've got to go very carefully, especially when you're walking in the early morning and you're walking directly to the east, in the afternoon when you're walking directly into the west. Because, as you can see, the light's coming straight into my eyes, so I need to focus. Oh, Final Control's just told me that we've been tracking a leopard that's been found. Rexon has already found it, and I've just spotted his car. Oh, there she is. So obviously our game drive radio is off when we're on air in the tree. You can see her tail and her head popping out. So, okay, so you see this big tree? Yeah. The marula tree. Let me just have a look in your screen. That's her there.
There.
Yep.
Okay.
There she is. Look, her head's popping out to the other. You got her. There she is. Alright, so I mean, we walked under that tree just now, Craig. She definitely wasn't there. Okay, so Rexon's already there. So we've been tracking a leopard that's been found, but we didn't know it. Well, that happens sometimes. I think what we're going to do is we'll move away. I know I've just heard from Final Control, Jamie's on her way here. So we'll let the vehicles enjoy their time. We're going to go look for some bugs and things, and then when they leave, we'll come back and see if we can find her. Well, it still counts as a leopard on foot. While we keep checking around, Hosanna could still be close by somewhere, although I did find his tracks going to the south. Let's go across to Jamie, who's on her way to the beautiful Shongile.
In theory I am. I apologize. There's a little bit of confusion this morning as to who is where. I'm just listening to the game drive comms at the same time. Where's Rexon now? There he is. There we go. I got it. Whoopsie. Let's just let Rex move out. And we're going to go and join the beautiful Shongile. It seems as though Rex is very excited because it looks like there might be a wild dog. Oh, there's the walk team. A wild dog sighting as well. My goodness gracious. Everything happening here this morning. Let's go have a look at a leopard. Hammond, are you excited to film a leopard in the sun? I am. There. In the tree. Hello, gorgeous girl. Have you been sitting here for 2 days waiting for one of us to find you? Yes. Looking at us as if to say, I've been here all along. Where have you been? Isn't that gorgeous? A proper African picture. Leopard in a tree in the sunlight. And of course, it's our beautiful Shongile. And she is truly beautiful. For our new viewers, this is Shongile. And she is 13 and a half months old. So not yet quite ditched her status as a cub. She's not fully independent. and she really lives up to her name of the beautiful one. Her mother is Karula, probably one of the most, funnily enough, I was thinking about it, she must be one of the most famous leopards in the world, Karula. And a very well-deserved title at that. And this is the 5th letter of her progeny. Barbara? I think it was Barbara. Barbara, you want to know how long will... Sorry, Megan. What? Bova. Bova? Boba. Boba. Right, Boba. Bova and Boba sound very similar through these radios. Boba, sorry, you want to know how long will leopards spend in trees? It's a difficult question to answer because it is very much dependent on the weather conditions. On a chilly morning like this morning, it would be quite common to find a leopard in a tree because they're avoiding the dew on the grass and finding themselves a nice comfy spot in the sun, warming up and just generally making themselves comfortable. And if they have a kill in a tree, then they'll spend more time in a tree. But at the same time, I would say that most of my leopard sightings, or a majority of my leopard sightings, have actually been on the ground. So it's very much circumstantial. On a hot summer's day, finding a good position on a nice tree branch with plenty of shade and a breeze would be the perfect spot. Oh, such a big yawn. This is utterly gorgeous. Shame, I'm feeling guilty now. I know Brent was meant to be... I know he was looking for her.
You won the challenge.
We did win the challenge, Herman. Well, actually,
Rex won it.
technically Rexon won it.
Why is his stomach so big?
Herman wants to know why her stomach is so big. I think it's just the way she's lying, to be honest. I don't think she's eaten recently. Well, she might have caught herself something. But I think it's just the way that she's lying on the branch. I think there's another branch sticking out on her left-hand side that's pushing her stomach outward and bulging. There we go. Ladybugs and Daisy are also saying her tummy is so full, but now she's sat up and we actually have an opportunity to see just what her belly looks like. And I don't think she's actually that full. I think it was just the way she was lying. Where are you going? Which way are we going now? Where's your brother? Somewhere around here, I imagine. Oh, she's so beautiful. Here we go. Beautifully done, Herman. Oh, let's go and catch up with her. She's vanished into the grass. Goodness. Hello, branch. Sure, this grass is so long. You can see her wandering off there. Just see the tip of her little white tail disappearing off. Don't vanish, girl. Otherwise, we will definitely have to get the walk team in. Onto the termite mound. There we go. That helps a lot, Shongile. If you could just stay there, that would be marvelous. Alright, I'm just going to reposition Herman. Let's go up to her. Now, for our viewers that are relatively recent arrivals to our live safaris, you'll notice that I'm driving over one or two trees as we go along. And we're very careful about the trees that we drive over. So we pick the species carefully. Oh, this is a little bit of a narrow spot. Okay, we'll make it work, Uh-oh. An elephant. There is an elephant over there. Hello, big girl. Where did you come from?
Probably why the leopard stopped.
Shongile, have you been stalking elephants? Well, you're a great elephant hunter. Let's reposition, get them both in view. Hi, big girl. There's a leopard here on this termite mound. Leopard cubs and elephants. Hosanna loves elephants, apparently. Sorry, this may take some maneuvering. I also don't want to be trapped in this narrow passageway with an elephant and a predator. That's just general common sense. There's a large tree there. And good morning to Mark. Mark, the reason that Karula is so famous is because of her unbelievable mothering record. Leopard wants to stalk this elephant. It's hilarious. Sorry, Mark. I'm distracted by Shongile's antics. Look at her body posture. Look at her looking at this elephant. Now, Mark, sorry, you want to know what the percentage of leopard cubs will make it to adulthood. 70% of leopard cubs in certain areas do not make it to past their first year. So that will give you a very good idea. Once they reach their first year, then their survival rate or their mortality rate drops enormously. Their survival rate increases enormously. Sorry, I'm just checking to see what these Ellies are doing. I just want to make sure that we don't push them into the bushwalk team as well. 70%. So that means apparently, sorry, I can see the bushwalk team here standing on a termite mound, hence the reason for my distraction. I've got a leopard, an elephant, and Craig all within my view, and Brent wants to know which way the elephant is going. I can't see it anymore. It was sort of going northwest from where I am at the moment. And my sincere apologies to the bushwalk team for barging in. The last I heard, they were moving out of here because of the elephants. I didn't realize we were coming to hijack their sighting. There's Shongile settling down. And that's the reason why Karula is so renowned. Not the only reason, but one of the reasons why Karula is so renowned. Because she's actually somehow managed to beat the mothering odds time and time and time again by raising cubs to adulthood 4 times, 4 sets of cubs in the last 10 years, plus Shongile and her brother Hosanna, who are now her 5th set of cubs to make it to adulthood. And there's nothing more beautiful than the picture of a leopard on a termite mound with chloris grass shining around her. I would reposition, but it's a bit of a tricky area, so we might have to content ourselves with a view of her bottom for now. At least it's a leopard bottom.
At least.
At least. Not something like a warthog bottom. It's a lovely bottom, Shongile. Tail stretched out, draped artistically over the termite mound.
Try reposition.
Oof. Trumpeting elephants. The reason I don't want to reposition at the moment is I'm not 100% sure where all of the elephants are, and bushwalk is across the quarry from me. So what I don't want to do is go crunching over any branches or logs or anything like that, and ultimately chase the elephants towards the bushwalk team. I don't want to put them between a rock and a hard place.
I see.
There we go. So Hammond understands our predicament. It's so thick in here, I can't actually see what elephants are around, but I know there's lots. Ooh. And they're trumpeting off in the distance. They're just to the south of the bushwalk team, which means that they're actually between various elephants. You can hear them trumpeting just here. You can see how thick it is. There's the bushwalk team. There's... I can't even see who that is. Who's on bushwalk this morning? It is Craig.
Yeah, Batman.
It is Batman. It is Batman. I'm not sure Batman realizes we're watching him. They're both sitting on a termite mound. And then the elephants are a little bit to the south of them. Oh, wonderful news. It seems as though Tristan has achieved his goal. We're going to find out and see whether or not Bushwalk needs some rescuing. Let's go over to Tristan.
Right, so we're busy just trying to keep up with them. They've come right to the boundary and they're now moving towards the main road. Sorry, the sun is right in my eyes when I look this way, but they're coming slowly along towards the main road here. They just chased a little waterbuck, well, not a little one, a big male waterbuck, and they have carried on a little bit further south. Now they're up and down all over the place, and this is the Investic pack that we've managed to catch up with. So this is the tracks that we saw initially right at the start of the morning, so a bit of perseverance has paid off. Now they were all starting to come to the road, and now it looks like they've changed direction again. I'm sure they might be somewhere here. The problem is that this is not very friendly bush at all. It's quite dense and thick, and now it seems like they have gone another direction. Now that side of the road is a bit of a problem for us because that is all Simbambili, and then this coming down here is the boundary. So I'm just trying to see where they've actually gone to and where they're going to come out, because it looks like they might be coming back this way, because I've got Rexon behind me and I've got Shanae in front of me, who are both guides at other lodges, and they both say that they can see that they're somewhere here. So hopefully they're going to come out through this gap here. Now I can't see anything, which is typical of wild dogs. This is how they are. They can go back and forth and move around in different directions. So it's quite a common thing to see them moving in this way. And you often... Oh, nice spot, Darby. So there's a European roller that is in amongst the madness and the chaos that is the wild dogs. So that is taking it nice and easy. I'm sure its morning is about to get interrupted if the dogs come flying through that bush. You should see that roller scatter and go crazy and fly off. Now, so H, the difference between the wild dogs and hyenas is quite a big one. I'm just trying to go forward because there's a little gap here, and I want to just see if I can see back and into the gap, but I don't see anything at all. So wild dogs are a much smaller, sleeker animal. They have these big rounded ears and this multicolored coat with blacks and cream colors and whites throughout, whereas hyena is a little bit more bulky and a lot larger in terms of its size, and it's got these spotted little black spots with this tawny colored coat. So they're slightly different to the dogs. Also come from two different families. Hyenas are in the hyena family and dogs come from the canine family, so a little bit different in their sort of ancestry. Now I'm not sure where they've gone. I don't know if Rexon can still see them. Shanae says she can't see them, so they're somewhere here. It's just where they've actually gone to is the next question. And this is exactly what happens with them, and why they're so tough is that they become very elusive. They have this quick way of moving, and so you can lose them very, very quickly. They decide that they're going to come out, and they just kind of run across the road and then into a thicket again, and it is very difficult to stay with them, especially in bush like this. So what we're doing is just standing by here and hoping that they're going to pop out onto the road somewhere in front of us or behind us, that we'll be able to then see where they've gone to and exactly where they're going. The good thing for us is that they are generally going in a southerly direction and a easterly direction, which means that they come back into our area. So I think, there we go, they're coming. So finally we get a glimpse of them. Now you can see all of them coming out, and aren't they absolutely beautiful? So you can see what I was talking about now with the difference with hyena. They also have that straight back, whereas hyena has a sloped back. So I'm just going to turn around quickly. So because we're right on the boundary, and Shanae was very nice to have kept these wild dogs for us, I'm not going to block and impede her view, and we'll just stand by on our side because the dogs are going to cross over, I'm pretty sure, into our area, so we'll let her be able to see as well. It's the nice thing about being out here and working with these lodges is that, you know, they help us out a lot with being able to find sightings as we help them, and so as long as we keep a nice sort of relationship between everybody, it works quite well. Just got to make sure that I don't get in the way of Rex either. But isn't that spectacular? Look, they're all out. Isn't that amazing? Now I'm so excited because I haven't seen dogs since November. It's been a dog drought in my life, and I am super happy to see them, and I believe a lot of you are too. They are such cool animals, and look at how they move. I just love the way that they trot, and like I was saying earlier this morning, if we see little bounding white tails going through the bush, then we should get excited, and there we have it right now. Isn't that amazing? Now I'm just going to quickly go around and get in front of them. It looks like they're going to go towards Sydney's dam, so I don't know how long we're actually going to have them for, unfortunately, but at least we've got a glimpse, which is exciting. It's been a morning of tracks and tracking and a bit of frustration in the way that we've had to go round and round in circles and wait for these dogs to come back into our area. So to actually finally have them on the road in front of us just like that is quite spectacular. So really happy to have found them. And you can see they're having a little game. They're chasing one another around. There's another one coming here. So, Laura, you are saying this is amazing. How many are there? I'm not 100% sure how many are in this pack. From a quick count, it looks like at least 12. Now, Brent will probably know a little bit more because Brent had them fairly recently, and they were static and lying down, and he was able to count them. So I'm not 100% sure, but this pack, there was 13 at a stage, and I know one was killed, so it should be 12, I think, here. Let me just catch up with them and have a little count. But we have done an absolute full circle. So where I first found the tracks at the very start of Game Drive is exactly where we are now. So they've done a massive loop around. So all the driving I've done this morning, I could have just sat here and waited for an hour and they would have come to me, which would have been quite a lot easier. But at least we also know roughly now where Shadow is. Shadow's tracks are also around Arethusa. But like I said, it's just so dense and thick in there that it's difficult to follow. But you can see how quickly these dogs move. They just stop for 1 second and they're gone down the road. Isn't that incredible? Now this is a great opportunity for screenshots with a backlit dog. You can see the light just illuminating the edge of the dog. So all of you that are interested in the screenshots, and look how they're watching. So they're busy hunting at the moment. They've got their heads up trying to look over the grass, and sometimes what you'll find is they'll even jump onto their back legs to be able to see. But isn't this incredible? There's actually more here. There's 14 that I can count now. So there's a few more. So just communicating with Rex as to who's going to go first. Obviously, thanks very much, Rex. We've got guests that are on his vehicle, and he's got some photographic guests that are very interested in taking lots of photos. So for them, this is super exciting to be able to have a chance to photograph wild dogs. For them is amazing. So just as it is for us, it's nice to be able to give them a bit of space too. Like I was saying, it looks like they're going to go towards Sydney's dam. Now there's one dog that is sitting right here, and look at that. Aren't they absolutely magnificent? Now I've heard people call them ugly. I don't find them ugly at all. I find them very good to look at. They're so interesting. They've got all these markings. They're very pretty animals. I really do like the wild dogs, and isn't that spectacular? So David, you're asking about whether the dominant individuals stay in front like wolves. Well, yes, a lot of the time the alpha male and female will run in front, and they'll be the ones that dictate which way the pack goes, and that is probably the alpha dog in front there. So he's often in the lead, taking the pack around and moving them around to make sure that they stay safe. But it's quite nice that they've all of a sudden just stopped for us and allowed us now to catch our breaths a little bit. It's been all a bit frantic as they've been running around and coming in. And it's amazing how you sit there and you wait and there's nothing, and then they start appearing and then they're quickly moving across. So really nice that they've now just decided just to rest a little bit. Now, just checking because it seems like they're looking around. So I want to just see if there's any sign of him. And I can actually see impalas way off in the distance towards Sydney's dam. So it looks like they're going to go that way. What we might see is a flurry of impalas running, but unfortunately if they go that way they're going to go out of our area. But there are impalas just on the horizon. I don't know if you can see them, Dave, just above the dogs, a little bit to your right, a little bit more. There they are. So they're the impalas, and now the dogs maybe have spotted those impalas, and that's where they're going to go and hunt now. You'll find that they're all going to go into that area, and it's going to become just absolutely chaotic. They run into the herd, and there's no actual way that they will stalk like a cat will. These guys are just going to be frenetic. Everyone's going to run in, and they're going to chase into these impalas, and they're going to try and cause absolute confusion. Now, for a long time, it was believed that wild dogs will tag team in terms of one will run, and then as they fatigue, another one will take over. And while it has happened in some cases, generally that's not the way they hunt. They generally all just go after a prey species, and each one will chase its own impala, and eventually they kind of chase impalas into one another, and somebody grabs, and that's that. So it's quite amazing. Now, unfortunately, this area is not a great area for signal, so we might have a few little breakups and black screens, but while we see if we can try and keep visual with them, I'm going to go up a little bit so we have a much broader view of them, and we can then watch if they chase. They'll hopefully then chase round back towards us. Just careful there, Dave. But isn't this exciting? Absolutely amazing. And there, it looks like we have a perfect view. Alright, so while we wait for the wild dogs to get closer to the impalas, Jamie, see how her snoozing leopard is doing.
Our snoozing leopard is doing marvelously. Thank you very much, Tristan. She could not look happier if she tried. Despite the presence of lots and lots of elephants, not close to her, but I can see a few of them, big grey shapes in the distance, feeding on the various branches in this area. And I'm sorry, that's why I just wanted to double check that Bushwalk didn't need a quick lift out of here, since there are so many elephants around. Oh, that was such a big sigh, Shongile. I'm quite jealous of her, you know. She's got such a nice sunny patch. Now, don't forget to send through your questions using the hashtag safariLIVE on Twitter. We're very keen to hear from you and find out what you're thinking about all of this. The elephant's slowly but surely moving off. Look at the ticks on her ear. Oh, it makes me want to go and pluck them off. She's got so many of them gathered around the edge of that ear, right in that sensitive skin, and that little flap. Horrible creatures. Ticks are just, I know we're meant to appreciate all life forms, great or small, and all of that. I have to admit, though, I struggle with ticks. The only purpose I can see for them, and I know that they, when there's an animal that's in a weakened condition, they help to remove it from the food chain and the breeding cycle quicker. But at the same time, I feel as though the only purpose they really serve is to feed oxpeckers, which are beautiful birds. And of course, leopards don't let oxpeckers sit on them. No predator will let an oxpecker sit on them. But you kind of desperately want to administer some kind of tick treatment. We can't. This is all part of the natural cycle. But those 4 fat ticks sitting in her ear are making me itchy just looking at them. She needs her mum to come back and pluck them out. Karula's so good at that, using her incisors and just pulling them away. And often we see Karula or any of our leopards with little blood patches on their necks or on their fur. And that's generally what it comes from. It's just popping those ticks. She actually looks as though she's gone out and got piercings, going through that teenage phase. I can do what I want. I'm an individual. Therefore, I'm going to go and get parts of my body pierced. That's what it looks like. She's got little ornate decorations on her ear. Her brother apparently has crossed south but we are right on the boundary. Herman, look here, there's that elephant's coming a little bit closer. Slowly but surely. We go. There are 8. Move back in the distance. They're not keen on moving anywhere at the moment. They're just steadily feeding around us. Leopards are the one predator that you often see in proximity to elephants without them being chased. And I think it's just because leopards are so good at being, subtle, I guess. I've seen mating leopards right next to elephants and the elephants ignore them. And I think it's just because they don't see them. And I personally believe that leopards are not as pungent as something like lions. I know they're not as pungent as wild dogs. But we don't smell them as clearly as we do something like a lion or a hyena or a wild dog. And while our elephants are contentedly feeding away, completely unaware of the presence of a sleeping leopard covered in ticks, Nick, you want to know if the ticks could cause serious disease to the leopard. I'll keep an eye on these ellies. I'll let you know if they're doing anything. Not really. Everything out here is adapted to deal with the various challenges that they face out here, including shungile. So whilst they can pass on a bacteria known as rickettsia, and there's different strains of it, so there's different varieties of tick bite fevers, it's colloquially known, most of the animals are immune to the strains that occur out here. And the only time it would really, an infestation of ticks on an animal could actually really cause them damage is when their system is already weakened completely and they're not strong enough to groom themselves to get rid of them. And then they just serve to further contribute to the animal's weakening condition via essentially anemia, because they're sucking the blood of the animal. And if you've got a proper tick infestation, that amount of blood that's being consumed might make the animal weaker than it already is. But they don't really cause any serious damage. They're probably very itchy. I don't know why I'm saying probably. I know that they are very itchy and very uncomfortable. But when you don't have thumbs and fingernails to pluck them off, and when they sit on your ear like that, there's really very little that shungile can actually do to dislodge them. Twitching her ear because of the biting flies. It's just an inevitable part of life out here. Every single animal is covered in ticks, myself included, despite my best efforts. Yes, I know, girl. Oh, there's one inside your ear as well. Oh, there we go. Buttons cockatoo, as shungile gives us a big yawn and then goes back to sleep. You want to know if ticks can cause anemia in the larger mammals. Again, only when you've got a really weakened animal. It's very, very unlikely to occur in a natural wild situation where the animals are healthy. But if you've got a situation where, let's say the animal's injured and it can't move all that much and it can't really feed all that much and it's not in fantastic condition, then the ticks will contribute. Not necessarily cause any kind of death via anemia. It's not the same as with the mange, basically parasites, the mange mites that infected the Styx cubs. And they essentially, the deaths of the Styx cubs were probably caused by a combination of anemia and just the fact that they were so itchy they couldn't keep still, their bodies were constantly twitching, moving, trying to fight off that infection. But it's really more of a contributing factor. I've made my way over to this side of the termite mound so that we could get a good view of shungile, only after checking up to see that bushwalk were not about to go wandering into a herd of elephants. Let's go find out whether or not they've managed to circumnavigate them.
Okay, we had to leave that area where Jamie is with shungile. We actually had to spend about 20 minutes sitting on top of a termite mound just waiting for all the various different elephant herds to pass so we could get back to our tracking vehicle. Now, we do spend a lot of time with elephants on foot on bushwalk. The reason we made the choice to leave that area today is it's this cold wind. The elephants are likely to be unrelaxed, and also it affects our hearing, so we can't hear as well. And the fact that we were surrounded by about 3 different herds, we decided it was a much better option to leave. Now, we could have stayed, we probably would have been fine. However, if you start taking silly chances with animals, you not only put yourself in danger, but you also put those animals in danger, because you have to react to their reaction. So, of course, we're all about the animals here, so we'd much rather move out of that area, keep us safe, and most importantly, keep the animals safe. Now, here we've got some interesting tracks on the ground, which Craig is now standing on. Only joke. So, something has been rolling around. Now, I have to... Let's just move that into that pocket. So, something's been doing this. Oh, this is so nice. Oh, so wonderful. So wonderful. Oh. Now, there's a couple of different animals that like to do that, but I'm going to try to see if I can find some hares. There we go. Is that a hare? No, that's a stick. There we go. And without even looking at the tracks, by just looking for hairs, I can tell which animal has done this. Now, if you see green on my fingers, don't worry, it's just spray paint. There we go, a white hare. So, who do you think's been rolling around the ground apart from me? If you know the answer, hashtag safariLIVE. Now, we're going to go see if we can find these animals that have been rolling. Oh, they've had such a good time. I'm actually quite jealous, because whenever you see an animal rolling in the sand, it looks like they're having the best time ever. There we go, little white hare. Oh, another roll. Oh, all of them were rolling. Now, I'm pretty sure the culprits of the rolling animals are not too far away. Now, of course, another reason I've chosen quarantine to continue our bushwalk today is because it's possibly the only place we might get some birds. And I really need to get those bird lists going, because otherwise the killer bees are going to have a mountain to climb on the Sunset Straight. Whoa. Is he going to land again? There we go. Where my shadow ends. On the stick. So watch where the shadow of the stick ends. There, a broad banded grass yellow. Lovely butterfly. Now, you can see it's still sitting, and sitting in the sun particularly. So there's dew in the grass, and it's a particularly cold morning. So the butterflies are going to be perched in the sun, trying to warm up before they continue on their foraging and feeding. Now, a while ago, or the last time actually, that Jamie and I were on leave, we went with Steph and Blake. Blake is Steph's son. We went up to Mariepskop. Now, Mariepskop's the highest point in the Drakensberg Mountains in this area. And below is a spectacular misspelt forest, and we went there specifically looking for a type of bushshrike called a black-fronted bushshrike. Unfortunately, we did not find the bushshrike, but we did see forest canaries, which is another special for that area. So, and then we moved out of the forest right onto the top, where it's massively high, and you've got almost fynbos and sort of alpine heath type ecosystem right on top of the mountain. And we went to the edge of the cliff, and it was just butterflies. I mean, thousands upon thousands of butterflies. And yesterday afternoon, I was downloading some footage from my GoPro, and don't worry, I haven't forgot about the time lapse I took the other morning. I'll put it on before this evening's sunset safari. But I found another time lapse I did on top of that mountain of these thousands upon thousands of butterflies flying all around us. Now, at that very moment, I actually didn't know what it was, why they were all congregating on the edge of the cliff. So I decided I need to do some research. Ooh, I'll do those just now. Some very nice bird tracks. So I decided to do some research, and it turns out that a lot of those butterflies that live in those forests, and forests are a favorite spot for butterflies. So in an area where it's on a montane forest, and you come out of that forest and onto those open cliffs and those open sort of heath-like grasslands on the top of the mountain, the butterflies at certain times of the year all move out of the forest onto these cliffs so they can meet a mate. So they can't find each other in the thick forest, so they've got to come out, and then they all dance around and flirt around finding mates. So it is incredible. So that's another time lapse I will be sharing in the next couple of days. It is beautiful how many butterflies were up there. Oh, the rolling animals have still been rolling. Natural, well done. It is indeed zebra, one of the only animals that has that very coarse white fur. So if it had been the white belly fur of impala, it would have been much, much thinner. So it was a zebra. Now I was hoping that, well, we've almost started calling them tailors. Rock, you're lucky I'm not close to you because I've got my stick with me. Rock says it's from me and my hair is going grey. Don't joke, I've got a few greys that keep popping out in my eyebrows. Jamie keeps telling me they're blonde, but I think she's just placating me. At least I've still got hair. Rock, I think you don't have hair, that's why you made that comment. But now, if we just look opposite us here, I was hoping that the culprits of the rolling would be around, but there's just some impala so far. They still might be around. And those impala are quite focused. Oh, there's a zebra, there's a zebra. You can just see its back over the ridge. Walking to the east. I think we're going to try sneak up on them. Are you ready, Craig? Yep, let's go. Now, there's two different ways to approach wild animals on foot. One is to try be a predator. And that means I'd be sneaking, keeping low, trying to go from termite mound to termite mound to tree. It doesn't work, because if you act like a predator, most of the animals will react to you like you're a predator. But if you've ever seen a leopard or a lion that's been spotted by impala or wildebeest, and they start snorting at it, the leopard or lion put up its tail and they sort of just walk in front, and the animals just keep snorting at them and they don't run away. So that's called non-predatory, well, it's not non-predatory behavior, but once they've been spotted, they behave like that. So if we walk not trying to hide ourselves, and I talk quite nicely, but I'm not making any loud, aggressive noises, and I just keep talking, you know, we're having a good morning, it's lovely out here on the sunrise bushwalk, the animals keep still, just like they're doing now. There we go. Hello, zebras. Now you can see, nice and relaxed. They know I'm here. They watched us. Most of them have put their head down. The impala also nice and relaxed. There we go, grazing. Now if I show you what I'm going to do next, and we're just going to keep wide, Craig, because now I'm going to turn into a predator. And as soon as I start showing predatory behavior, watch how the animals' reactions change. Look at that. Everything's running. So you can see how important it is about knowing about different animals. I lost my torch while I was stalking somewhere. I don't want to lose my torch. There it is. Now, the reason I keep a torch in bushwalk is so I can look down holes. But now, if I stop being a predator, just like when a leopard or a lion gets spotted, and I start walking normally again, the animals stop. And they look at me again like, what is that creature doing? It is quite beautiful there, that lovely backlit zebra. So it's very interesting, and a lot of this stuff comes with, obviously, time spent in the bush, and oh, I thought Craig was going to trip, darn it. And so it's a very interesting thing how, even though now that I'm walking upright, talking, I'm not acting like I want to hunt, but soon, the moment I act like I'm trying to hunt, the animals all react differently. Oh, wildebeest! And more than one! Now I'm going to do a naughty thing. Here we go. Stop and look. Hello, Gnu's. To you too. Now, of course, the wildebeest rutting season is almost the same time as the impala rutting season. So over March, May, we're going to see some really fantastic behavior from both those species. And at the moment, as again, showing non-predatory behavior. And this herd of zebras, I actually like to call them Taylor's zebras, because she was the one who got so close to them the first time. I mean, look at that. They're now just looking at me. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, there's a little bit of an argument going on. A little bit of bitey. Oh, isn't this wonderful? We're only about 50 meters from them. Now, one of the other things you can do with wild animals, which is often quite interesting, is if you sit down, they're not quite sure what you're up to, so they come closer to have a look. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to sit down on that termite mound up there, and hopefully the zebras will come closer to us. But while we see how the zebras react, let's go back to Tristan to see what's happening on Rusty.
Well, unfortunately our wild dogs crossed north into Manyeleti and they left the Sabi Sands and carried on going. They were chasing some of those impalas and crossed over the boundary. So we thought we'd just come along Buffalo's Hook cut line and have a look, see if there's anything else coming inside here, and maybe see if we could try to find those tracks for the male lion that Jamie had or heard this morning, and that was on the dam cam. But we came across some male leopard tracks. So because we were talking about tracks earlier and we were talking about the size difference between male and leopard and female leopard tracks, I want to show you these tracks quickly so that you can actually see how much bigger the male's is. Now, the male leopard has a much broader track like we were talking about earlier. You can see here, if we come to these tracks, how much bigger and rounder they are. So this is his front and back foot over here. Now, these tracks with the female that we saw earlier were much smaller. Her tracks probably would have fitted in about there, whereas you can see the size of his track is that in terms of from the back of the pad to the front of his toes. So much larger, and this is quite a big male. So I would probably hazard a guess that it's either Tingana or Gajima, one of the two. Now the good news is for us is that these tracks actually are coming back into our area and they are crossing southwards into Djuma. So we're going to turn around and go and see if we can follow these tracks for a little bit and see where they lead to. Now, in terms of these tracks and being able to ID who they would be, just from the size would have to be one of the big territorial males. Somebody like Sindile or even Quarantine to a degree wouldn't quite have feet this big just yet. Let's just turn around. Now these tracks are not right now, they haven't just walked here, but it's definitely from the early hours of this morning. There's some elephant tracks that we saw earlier that are quite fresh. The dung is still warm and moist, and so these tracks are on top of some of those elephant tracks. He did lots of scent marking up on these trees and then carried on down towards Gallagher's shortcut. So report below, you're asking if this is Tingana's track. It could well be. While I was trying to follow up on Shadow when the dogs were moving around in Simambili, I found tracks for a male leopard there, which is undoubtedly Tingana. That can only be his tracks walking through the Murrayking drainage system. So this could be that he's come from here and then crossed all the way through. So we'll follow in just to make sure. But it could be his. Yes, this is an area that he does walk. Difficult to say exactly whose track it is. Tingana, Mvula, Gajima. There's also been this River Rocks male that was apparently seen recently that comes from the south. They all are big adult males, and none of them have a distinguishing feature on the pad. Maybe if one of them had like a scar or a broken toe or something that we could then say definitely that's them. So we just surmise a lot of the time with male leopards. But you can see he just walked straight down the road here, exactly the same route that I had Mvula walking the other day. So last weekend I had Mvula, last Saturday I think it was, exactly a week ago, walking exactly the way that this male leopard is walking. So I wonder if this is either not him or it's one of the other territorial males like Tingana that's now picked up the scent that another male leopard walked here. And Dave, do those tracks turn around and come back at us?
Yes, they do.
That's interesting. So it looks like the tracks have turned and gone back again. So I'm just going to go back to the fire break and just see where the tracks go. But it's quite interesting to see how this leopard is moving, because he also went actually past this road and was carrying on the cut line and then turned around and came back down here. So maybe it's because he's picking up scent, like I say, of somebody like Mvula. I just want to check on the fire break here. Morning Glory, you want to know how long it is since we've seen Quarantine? Now, I actually have never seen Quarantine in my life, which is a sore point. I've always wanted to see him. He looks like an absolutely beautiful cat, but I have yet to see him, and I know that Brent did see him, I think during this week, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe Megan can just let me know, but I think that he was seen this week, sometimes maybe Monday or Tuesday, somewhere around there. I don't know, Brent or Jamie, one of the two of them had Quarantine. Now this leopard has gone back and is now coming along this fire break. I actually, funny enough, think that there's tracks for two different males here, because one track does not look like the same size. One looks slightly smaller, and when I first saw the tracks up there, I thought that there was another leopard, and maybe what's happening here is that there's a leopard tracking another individual. So what's happened is one male has walked and now another one is following behind. But I'm just trying to see. But it's definitely looks like two different leopards, and the movement would be consistent for that. So as you would find the movement of these males, you'll find that if they pick up a scent of another one, then they often move past it and then they backtrack, check again, move past, backtrack, check again. So it does happen that you get this kind of behavior. I just want to check here if they go down this way, or if they carry on. Now the problem is we've had a big elephant herd move through here, so in all likelihood they might have squashed a lot of our tracks, although there looks like a track that's still going down the fire break. I actually think some of these tracks are going to be for Tingana, because the track that I've just seen now is not as fresh as the ones we were following, and the tracks that I saw in Arethusa were a lot fresher than these ones. So I think this is going to be Tingana's tracks that are going to go all the way along, and they're going to go into Arethusa, and another male has then followed in behind. Now who that male could be, I'm not sure. Right, so talking of leopards and all things spotted, let's go across to Jamie, who actually has a leopard, and see what Shongile is up to.
Shongile is posing like a princess on the top of the termite mound and keeping Herman and myself guessing as to which way she's going to face. We find ourselves in a rather tricky position once again. We're on the other side of the termite mound. We're still faced with a view of her bottom. That's just one of those things. I've just heard a very exciting report that Mike from Cheetah Plains has picked up on cheetah tracks on Djuma. Can you believe it? It's been a while since we've heard about cheetah wandering about here. That's what I want to go and do now, is just double check that this cheetah is still around. Mike even said that they looked quite small. Could we be in for a female cheetah treat? That's a tricky one. Unfortunately, they tend to be quite skittish in this area. The last time we saw a female cheetah was on Djuma, that is. Not a female cheetah, sorry. A cheetah on Djuma was in that exact area. It might just be a young male. Either way, I want to go and double check and follow up. I still have not seen a female cheetah since I started working for safariLIVE. I have, just not here. I went to go and visit my friend and went to go see a female cheetah. They're around. We just don't get those opportunities to see them. Now, of course, a complete contrast to the leopard that we're looking at the moment on the termite mound. And for our new viewers, one defining feature that we can see on Shungile, given her current position, is the shape of her leopard spots. Rather than being solid dots, they actually form very beautiful rosettes along her back and along her side. There we go. And that is one of the defining differences between leopards and cheetah. Cheetah much lankier in terms of their body build. Leopards are stocky creatures, stocky and powerful. Cheetah are aerodynamic and quite thin in the way that they are built, with semi-retractable claws, not completely retractable claws, so they often show up in the cheetah track itself. And there's our gorgeous girl, lounging like a princess. I don't know how I'm going to get out of here. One finds oneself in a tricky spot every now and again. And I know to get here, I found a rather difficult route. So while I try and puzzle out how I'm going to get out and go and search for those cheetah tracks, let's go and see whether Brent has any plans of helping us.
Well, we've just looking around, having a look at lots of little interesting things. Now here is a very interesting set of tracks. That is absolutely fascinating. Now, I wonder if anyone knows what made these tracks. They're very, very strange looking tracks, and they spread down all down the road here. Now, this is a level 3 track question, so I think it's going to be a bit tough, but if you think you know what this is, hashtag safariLIVE. What has made these little indentations in the sand? Ooh, it's going to be a tricky one. One last look to make sure you know what you're looking at. So what I'm referring to is these little indentations all around here. And see if anyone can work out what made those little indentations. Craig, do you think you know?
Maybe.
Maybe. Craig says he thinks maybe. But we're going to keep strolling on. Oh! Okay, there's another set of tracks, but I can't ask you 2 sets of tracks in one go. But here we go. You can see them here. These tiny little tracks like that. That's a very big, more than likely Glabrophon's scorpion walking through here. So a Glabrophon's a shiny burrowing scorpion. He's made those tracks there. Doop, doop, doop. But quite a big one. I mean, if you look at the size, the width between the tracks, very big scorpion track there. Well, at least I ruled out scorpion for the other one. Now, I was just explaining to Craig the difference between thick knee and coarser tracks. And I'm going to try to see if I can find both together, and then we can have a look at those as well. Let's have a quick look. Oh, we've got... There's another set of the same track that I asked earlier. Very difficult one. I'll be very impressed if anyone gets it. Remember, hashtag safariLIVE if you know what's made this track. Okay, now I'm trying to find thick knee and coarser tracks close together. Ooh. Well, we've got 2 answers in for the track quiz. I'm not going to go too far, so I can go explain it just now. Consulting detective says a bird, like a hoopoe, digging for termites or something. It's not. As I said, it's a really unusual one, a really tricky one. And Naturalist says a genet. It's not a genet either. I will try to find you genet tracks, but with a strong wind, it's going to be very difficult to see them nicely. But there's been a lot of activity around here. There we go. That's what we're looking for. So, there's only really thick knee tracks here, but we can have a look at them. There we go. So a thick knee, there's another one there. A thick knee's tracks, they have very round toes, so it almost looks like the front toe, if I make it a bit bigger, is like that, and then like that, and sometimes you get to see that little point there. So that is a thick knees track. A courser's track is very similar size, just a little bit smaller, but it's going to be it doesn't have that round edge, so it's going to be far sort of straighter like that. But so on a clear thick knee track like that, you can actually just see the rounded edge there. Sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to see, but when they walk in soft sand like this track, it's very, very easy to see. Well, hopefully, oh, so many tracks. And it's quite nice to look at tracks because the tracks are quite difficult. Difficult at the moment because of the hard ground and the wind, but this road's really nice for tracks. So we've got bush baby and mongoose. Neither are correct. Oh dear, guys, have I got you. Now, consulting detective was wondering about a bird digging for insects or termites. Now, there's a bird digging for something here, but you must always look carefully because you can see the distinct bird tracks and then the holes. So that is not a bird there that we looked at earlier. So there, that actually looks like it's probably, could be easily be a hoopoe from the size. You can also just occasionally, like here, you can see the edges where the wings have touched the ground. I think I've got you. I think this is the nearly impossible track quiz. I think I've got everyone. MKZ says, hi-dee-da. Well, it's not a bird, I can tell you that, so I think I'm going to do it. Maybe it might be a bit premature, but I say, I've got you, Warhol. I've got a nearly impossible track. I don't think anyone's going to get it. As I said, I'll be very impressed if anyone's going to get it. It is an extremely difficult track. It is something that would probably be asked on a level 3 tracking evaluation. Oh, see, with this wind, oh, we've got grasshopper, monitor lizard. Both are not correct. So we're talking about genets. And I say with this wind, it's very difficult. You can see those are actually genet tracks that have been blown over by the wind. So probably early last night, because there's been strong wind for a day or so now, and there have been vehicles up and down here. So there's a genet track, but as I say, I'll try to find a clear one. That one's been blown already. We're going to have to go back to those tracks, Craig, because I don't think anyone's going to get them. Craig, I'm even going to give you an opportunity to tell me live what you think those tracks are. Craig?
A what?
A wasp. Good guess, but no, Craig. Na, 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 na. I think I've got everyone. So I've failed in my nearly impossible quizzes because someone always seems to get them. So I think I've finally got a nearly impossible quiz that has flummoxed everyone. Now, what other tracks have we got here? Ooh, there's another nice track. It's a bit older. And there's a few different tracks. We've got a dove walking across, but I'm looking at this here, this sort of long line stripe. Now, there are little indentations on either side. You can see where the feet were. And that is actually probably a bushveld plated lizard. Or a lizard, not as big as a monitor lizard, but not small like a gecko or a skink, leaving that long indentation. Probably more than likely a bushveld-plated lizard. And then the other reason I think it's a bushveld-plated lizard, there's a much clearer version, a much fresher one, is that they often move up and down. So they'll have multiple holes in an area, but where you see them regularly running across the road, you'll often find multiple sets of tracks of a bushveld-plated lizard crossing, and the size is about right. Of course, there could be something to confuse me, but I'd say I'm 99% sure that track is a bushveld-plated lizard. The other track, however, is still waiting to be determined. Well, we've got a lot of answers. Bullfrog, squirrel, pangolin, honey badger. All? Not correct. Ha. Oh, Craig, we've got a brown-veined... Oh, no, it's not. It's not a brown-veined white. It is an African vagrant, but then it flew off. A very tatty-looking African vagrant. Sharon gives up and says, it's a shongololo with shoes. That would be quite the sight to behold, Sharon, but it is not a shongololo with shoes. Now, I'm just trying to see where that African vagrant butterfly went. It's made a disappearing act. Tell us, Brent, tell us, is from Final Control. Would I be Brent if I told you? I think I'm going to let you stew for a while longer. Right, well, at least until I get back to the track. Now, here we've got some wild basil growing, and you can see that wonderful purple coloration on the top. Now, those are actually modified leaves, and they modify into that color to actually attract butterflies because and insects, because their flowers are so small and nondescript. So that bright spectrum of color, because you must remember most butterflies see in ultraviolet and stuff, so that will literally be like shining a spotlight out there. And you can see some of them have been already pollinated. The ones that haven't been pollinated are still looking nice and fresh. So there's one that's hasn't been pollinated. You can see it sticking out, and then the ones that have been pollinated quickly die out, and make sure that the insects are focused onto the one that hasn't. But from a bright, shining, ultraviolet road sign to something that doesn't need any signs because it sees over the top of the trees.
Our giraffe is slowly but surely vanishing around the corner. Let's go and catch up. I was lucky enough to encounter this beautiful gentleman right in the middle of the road, and I've just been watching him stroll along. I don't want to make him feel pressured to move off into the dense vegetation on either side of the road, so I've been keeping my distance. And while we catch up with him, I'm very curious to know which track Brent has asked you. I want to know whether or not I'd get it right. There we go. Catching up with him now. It's been a while since we've seen a bull giraffe. There have been quite a few females around, but it's nice to see a big dark gentleman wandering along our roads. Where'd he go? No, come on. You can't have vanished that quickly. You're 6 meters. Possible. There you are. Hello, boy. Wait for me. Such a tricky patch of road. There we go. There he goes. A big gentleman giraffe. Slight exaggeration when I said he was 6 meters tall. He's probably closer to 5.5. Massive, dark giraffe bull. And they generally get darker with age, and you find that the bulls are slightly darker than the cows. You've got to be careful with that. It's like hair color in humans. Some of them have slightly different colors to, well, you know, Ted and myself, for example. So you can't completely age a giraffe, but the mature bulls, when they sexually mature, they get to they're known as stink bulls, because they excrete a pheromone that basically smells like human feces. It's kind of gross. You have to get, it's not very pungent. Apparently we're going through a little bit of a gremlin hollow. Luckily, Tristan has got an antelope to distract you all.
Well, we did, but our kudu are busy moving off into the thickets, as kudu like to do. So I'm going to try and just move ahead a little bit and see if I can get these kudu on the camera again. Now, we were tracking that male leopard, and it's exactly the tracks that I thought they are. So it's going straight towards Arethusa, and it's the same tracks that I picked up when I was trying to follow Shadow. So it's most definitely, I would say, Tingana's tracks that are moving that way. And there is our beautiful kudu. Do they not look exquisite in this morning light? It's also after the rain. The vibrance of the green is that much more again. It's become vivid, and the contrast of these sort of animals in that golden light against these vivid greens is just something unbelievably beautiful. Now, these guys are very typical behavior that we're seeing here. They were out in the open, and as we've come along, they start shifting and moving into more thicker, denser vegetation, and that's because they start to camouflage really well in that vegetation. You can see the one on the left out in the open is very easy to see, but the one on the right in the shadow, just in front of it, is very, very difficult to see. Now look there, look how it just disappears. So you can see how those white markings and their coloration in shadowy, dense areas is really very difficult to see. So that's why they go into those thickets. They try to get some sort of vegetation between you and them so that they can then be able to camouflage a lot better. And the one in the middle is almost invisible. If it wasn't for its tail moving every now and then, you would not be able to see it very easily at all. And those white markings there just to break up the outline a little bit. You can see it kind of matches the lightness of the bark of that guarri tree in front, and that kind of just shows that it just blends in with all of those different tones that you see in dappled light and shady areas. But they are absolutely beautiful. The condition of the animals after this rain is incredible. They all look very clean, and they got nice big bodies again. They've packed on a lot of weight since those dry winter months that we had a few months ago. Now, I always love kudu just because of their ears. Their ears are my favorite thing. Massive, massive ears that they flick around, and when they're alert, those big ears just focus in on you. It's quite cool to see. They're abnormally large for the size of their head, but they work really well because in these thickets, it's quite difficult often to see what's going on and to see any predators coming, so much easier to be able to hear them than it is to be able to see them. So very, very clever tactic that the kudu has. And you can see they're very alert. You see how they keep looking? So they're looking around, and that's because of the wind that is blowing. You'll find all of the prey animals are going to be very nervous in this wind. The wind disturbs their hearing, also it's blowing scents around. So these kudu are in an area where a male leopard has walked, hyenas have been, and this is where the wild dogs were early this morning. So there's scent of all of those predators drifting on the wind, and that's why these poor kudu are so alert. Now, Megan asked a question about male or female nyala and female kudu. Sorry, Megan, I didn't get the name. It broke up a little bit. But the difference between female kudu and female nyala, natural, sorry, that's the name, is that the female kudu is much, much larger than a nyala. A nyala is a much smaller animal. The nyala also has a rusty red coloration, whereas the kudu is more a grey color, and the nyala tends to be in, I suppose, also in thicker areas, but it's just that they're so much smaller and such a more vivid red than what the kudu is that it's much easier to tell them apart from the kudu. So I don't really have too many issues with it, but I'm going to try and find a picture of the nyala for you so I can show you how much of a difference there is. If you just give me 2 seconds. Somewhere in my box of wonderful things, which is all things book related. There we go. So I've invested in a box because I'm tired of my books getting wet like this book is. So I'm going to try and see if I can find the nyala for us. Now my book is, unfortunately, all the pages are stuck together because it got wet a few days ago. Okay, so there's nyala. Now I just need to find the kudu for you. Okay, so the kudu, like we saw just now, has got a very grey kind of body to it, and it almost has this grey neck, and then it goes into a slightly more tanned coloration. So I'm just going to put that on there so I don't shake. There we go. So you can see the coloration is more kind of a grey color, especially on the neck areas, and both male and female will have a similar tone to them. But if we go to the nyala females, you can see the nyala female is a lot more kind of rusty red in coloration, and then much, much smaller. She'll never be able to reach the same size as the kudu. So that's how I tell the difference. And then you'll often find on the nyala that they have this very white band at the base of the neck that goes onto the chest that the kudus don't have. So that's an easy way to tell as well. Very nice though. Our kudus have meandered out of this area and have gone into thicker bush, so I think we're going to carry on too. I don't think I'm going to actively pursue these male leopard tracks any further now that I know that they've gone to Arethusa. I think we shall just carry on and see what else we can find. Right, and while we do that, I think it's time to go back to Brent Leo Smith and see what answers he's got for us in the quiz.
Well, it sounds like Geraldine in Final Control is the only person who got it right. Well done, Jerry. You got something right this year. Of course, I'm only joking. But here we go. I've got a slightly clearer version of what we were looking at a bit earlier. Oh, let me get out of the sun. So we've had quite a bit of rain. So the top of the soil, the tension is quite hard. So it is actually an antlion trying to find where it's supposed to build its hole, but it keeps building its hole in really, really hard soil. But if you look very carefully, you can see that little pinnacle there. So normally when an antlion moves through it leaves a track like this of the where it's moving underground falling in on itself. But because of the rain and how compact the soil is, they're able to move now under the ground without collapsing. And what's happened is it's trying to find a spot where it can dig a nice deep trench to catch ants. But if I put my piece of grass into the soil, you see it's not deep enough. It hits really hard clay soil underneath from the rain and from the compacting. So it's just moving around trying to find a spot with soft enough sand that it's going to be able to build its trap. Well done to David and BL. You guys were spot on. Indeed, it is an antlion. Now, what I am going to try to do is find you an antlion that has succeeded in life and found some soft sand to build a trap in. But I don't think we're going to find one around here. All the ground is still quite hard. Remember, hashtag safariLIVE if you want to ask any questions. And it has been an interesting morning on Bushwalk so far. Of course, we were planning to find little Shongile, but who came behind us, and then Rexon spotted her, and then we had to wait a while sitting on top of a termite mound for all the elephants to move past us so we could get back to the vehicle and move out to an area where there weren't too many elephants for walking. Aha. Now, we've done the nearly impossible track quiz, and well done to David and BL. You've ruined it for me. I still need to find a track you cannot identify. But we've got a tree for the nearly impossible tree quiz. So a very distinct tree. It's got very light colored bark and very distinct leaves. And what we call this type of leaf system is whorled. W-H-O-R-L-E-D. When I say whorled, so they come from a central point and they grow in a whirl out of that central point. Now, this particular tree has got exquisite white flowers with a yellow center that smell delicious, but because of the drought, we haven't actually had any of them flowering. So if you know what the nearly impossible tree is, hashtag safariLIVE or questions at whatbirth.tv. Okay. Oh, but it sounds like Jamie's got the animals I was trying to avoid in this windy weather. Let's go have a look.
And the elephant's right up next to us, showing complete and utter faith that we're not going to do anything. Hey, big girl. Up the hill she goes. And there's a couple of very young calves in this herd as well. Oh, what a beautiful elephant herd. Hello. Yes, it's all right. It's okay, little one. It's all right, little girl. Look at her tail. The stiff out at the back. And that's quite common with young elephants. They show a little bit more of anxiety. Look at this little calf coming in front here. Hello, my baby. Oh, this is a lovely big herd. Nice, calm, relaxed, moving through. They're accompanied by a few bulls as well. This is very special. That's such a pity our biome guys are gone with their VR equipment. I hear you, big girl. Don't worry. Have you been having... Oh, look at this. Look at the trunk around the baby. Have you been having a nice mud bath, all of you? Is it hot already? There is not a mood in the world that an elephant can't cure. Yes, even you, grumpy girl. this. It's such a peaceful scene. And you, Nonsense, what have you got to say for yourself? What have you got to say? Is that right? Is that so? Yes. Off you go to the adults. Of all of the creatures out here, spending time with elephants is probably one of my favorite things to do. The sound of them feeding, the rustling, the crunching. It's very special. Just by the way, speaking of something a little bit smaller than elephants, unfortunately our cheetah tracks turned into leopard tracks because mistakes happen, and they ended up crossing Torchwood, just to keep you updated on what's going on in our world. Oh, hello, big boy. Lots and lots of young bulls around. Apparently, Taylor tells me Daryl's back as well. No, you nonsense. Now don't even start with me. Go on. Yes, I know. Yes, little boy. Very intimidating. Very intimidating. Off you go. The ladies are there. Yes, Taylor tells me Daryl is back. I don't know if Daryl's his official name. Daryl with the bell out of his ear. I have seen lots of elephant bulls, but Daryl has a penchant for coming up and attempting to touch the vehicle. He likes to come and try and intimidate people, which is a habit that we've been trying to break when it comes to him approaching us. There's no harm in him. He's just cheeky. There's the biggest bull that is accompanying this herd. And we've got, I think there's about 4 of them, all young-ish males. This was the oldest. And they are doing what bulls do, which is either move about on their own or in groups, and then what they're doing at the moment is following along behind the breeding herd in the hope that a female is coming into estrus or into heat, which means she will be ready to mate. And none of them actually, I would say, in this particular group have a chance. Because if a female does come into estrus, one of the bigger bulls from the area will come in and fight them off. And I'm very sorry, I didn't quite catch your name there, but it is a very good observation. No, sorry, Meg, still not. Pradeep? Herman, did you get that?
Not Pradeep.
Pradeep, you want to know, you've observed that elephants in South Africa tend to have bigger tusks and bigger body size, and you want to know whether or not that is actually the case. To a certain extent, that is an artificial situation. So the biggest elephants would not naturally occur here. The biggest tuskers might not naturally occur here. But we do have some of the remaining big tuskers just because South Africa's been fortunate in that the elephant poaching crisis has not hit us as hard as it has countries further to the north. So where there are places where elephants are being poached for their tusks, and it does happen, don't be full of nonsense, mister. They are actually slowly but surely basically artificially selecting for either smaller tusked elephants or elephants without tusks at all. Now, in a natural wild population uninfluenced by humankind, about 4% of elephants are born without tusks, as just a natural thing. Like some human beings are born without wisdom teeth, and some are not. And because of poaching, that is becoming more and more prevalent. As to whether or not we have the biggest tuskers out here, or the biggest elephants, that might just be because, in general, they're better protected than they might be elsewhere in Africa. And the biggest, I seem to have this feeling that the biggest elephant ever came from Angola. I don't know where I've got that, and maybe I'm thinking the Angolan sable, the giant Angolan sable. But I have this vague feeling, I can't remember exactly, and I apologize if I'm not 100% sure. But I don't think the record breaker came from South Africa. Our elephants, of course, are also fortunate enough in that they have plenty of access to food. Ah, Michael, good question while we watch this bull feed. Speaking of our individual elephants, and we do recognize them by their tusks and the rips in their ears, you want to know when the last time was that we saw Benjamin Button's herd? I have absolutely no idea. I have not seen him for a long time. Benjamin Button, for those uninitiated to these live safaris, is a baby elephant with the wrinkliest forehead any of us have ever seen. Hence the name Benjamin Button, because he looks as though he's ancient even though he's a tiny baby. And his mum is called Olympia, after Gracie's stuffed elephant. And I haven't seen them in quite a long time, to be completely honest with you. I'm not sure if any of the other presenters or other guides have seen him recently. I certainly have not. Once this elephant bull walks behind us, I'm going to turn us around and reposition. Unfortunately, I was hoping they were going to go towards Treehouse Dam, and then I noticed that they are all covered in mud and water, so I don't think that they are going to be all that desperate to go and drink just yet. A lovely, peaceful elephant sighting. Hey guys, you've been chasing Brent around this morning. Okay, let me shift around. Let's try for one last view before they disappear off into this vegetation. What a lovely surprise. The elephant herds are back. Now, Nate, you wondering about how elephant viewing here compares to other reserves and other parts of Africa. We don't have the largest amount of elephants out here, but the Kruger does have a huge amount. So you are guaranteed, if you come to visit the Kruger National Park, to see an elephant. That is the one animal you are absolutely guaranteed to see. If you don't, you're a nincompoop. You're not looking, because they're here. There are so many of them about. There are even some people that argue that the elephants, yes, I know, it's a ridiculous argument, I know, that the elephants are overpopulated in this particular part of South Africa. Go to Botswana and you will see elephant herds in enormous numbers. And you don't generally see massive herds out here, but you will see lots of elephants around. And then other reserves in South Africa, again, Pilanesberg, you're guaranteed to see some elephants. Go into the Natal parks, you're guaranteed to see some elephants. One of my dreams, and I've never actually experienced it, is to see an elephant on the beach. One day, Brent was taking me through all of his pictures of Gabon, as Brent pronounces it. But he's been taking me through his pictures of Gabon and the elephants on the beach. That is one of my dreams, to see that. You know that famous picture of the elephant calf diving headfirst into the waves? That would be truly stunning to witness. Here come some other bulls. There are lots of them around. That's 5, 6, and 7 now, added to this herd. Slowly but surely coming through. Now, Chris, one of the most beautiful things, of course, about an elephant, and we actually chatted about this with Skip, I believe, who's one of our 11-year-old viewers. Now, you wanted to know, Chris, why the elephant's eyelashes are so long. And they protect their eyes. That's essentially what they do. And when elephants, of course, elephants feed on all sorts of thorny trees, even more so probably than something like a giraffe. And they'll grab up, they'll stick their heads right in thorny trees to get to those leaves, particularly during the winter periods when there's not as much grass around. At the moment, our elephants are loving the grass. But when there isn't that availability, then they will put their heads right into a thorny tree. And that, of course, places their eyes at risk. So having long, beautiful eyelashes is an advantage out here because it means that you're less likely to get your eye poked out, basically. And also there's lots and lots of dust in this area. And that's why you'll see, if you look closely into an elephant's eye, in the corners of their eye they have that white, milky substance. And that's just a waxy buildup to protect their eyes. I'm just going to go further forward. It's quite a big elephant herd. Right, let's go over to Tristan before his bird flies away.
Woodland kingfishers that are sitting on this open branch, and they've been displaying, so I'm hoping they're going to do it again, but they put their little wings out and they curve down and almost looks like the shape of the Batman symbol, and then they go crazy and they dance around one another and make lots of noise. It seems though that they have stopped now. Now you can see the wind is playing havoc a little bit with our framing. As it blows, we're getting branches blowing in front. But they really are exquisite birds. Their bright blue wing and contrast with the black, and then that red beak is just absolutely incredible. They really are a bird that you love and hate. So when they first arrive in summer, everybody is joyous at the arrival of these woodland kingfishers and their call that fills the summer skies. And then it comes to the end of summer and you just want them to leave, because they have a nasty habit of being the first one awake. And Brent was telling me this morning that he was woken up at a lovely 3 o'clock in the morning by one of these calling outside his window. So they become, after a while, a bit much, and so the guides tend to start not enjoying their presence nearly as much by the end of summer. But they, if you see there, have a really big beak in relation to the size of their body. These guys are ferocious predators. I've seen them take lots of different types of prey, so from small insects all the way to frogs. I've seen them take centipedes. I've seen them even take small mammals like mice. I once had a woodland kingfisher that pulled a mouse out of the grass and was sitting exactly like this on a dead tree, and it was trying to swallow the mouse, but the mouse was the same size as the kingfisher, and it was just no way it was ever going to fit. But this kingfisher was not going to wander. It was trying its best to manipulate that mouse into its mouth in some way. It was quite incredible to actually see. So they really are quite amazing birds, even though they're quite small. Now unfortunately they're not displaying anymore, so I think we're going to carry on. So Brian, you want to know what the beak is used for? Well, that beak is used for grabbing of prey items mostly. So when they swoop down, they'll use the beak to grab and pick up smaller items. If the item is quite big, they'll actually use that beak to stab into their prey. So I've seen one go after a frog where it would fly down and it would almost use the beak like a spear and spear into this frog and stab it, and eventually the frog gets maimed and hurt enough that the kingfisher can go and grab it without having to wrestle too much. So that's mostly what it's used for. It's just in the aid of feeding, and then also if they need to drink water, then they use that beak just to scoop up water, much like any other bird. Right, we're going to leave our little romantic pair to themselves and let them get blown about in the wind, and we're going to carry on ourselves and get blasted by the wind too. It's amazing how the wind has come up. It feels like an August day today. If it wasn't green, it would feel like it's August. It's blustery, it's quite chilly, it's not very summer-like at all. It's not a typical March day, so it feels a bit odd actually. Hopefully this is just going to blow through and it's the edge of a cold front. Like I said earlier, I'm really not ready for winter just yet. I've got a bird of prey in the wind here as well. Just want to see what it is. Don't go so far away. Wahlberg's eagle is what we have there, a dark form Wahlberg's eagle. You can see that long rectangular tail that protrudes out the back, and look at how that tail is working in this wind. So things like bataliers are going to struggle a little bit in this wind because of the shorter tail that they have. They're not nearly as stable in flight. This bird of prey has a very long tail, and it's because it hunts on the wing. So this will come down and swoop and grab birds or insects while flying, whereas the batalier feeds off mostly carrion, so it doesn't need that longer tail to be stable in flight. But you can see in the wind today how the wings are working overtime, and that tail then spreads every now and then just to help balance this bird out and keep it from falling to the ground or being blown off course. Quite interesting to see. That was very nice. I would imagine a lot of the birds of prey are going to be out and about. But now that we've got a little bit of sunshine, there are going to be some thermals that are going to be lifting, and then this wind on top of that. It must be very pleasant to be a bird up there. Right, let's go back to Brent, who's, I think, going to finally give the answer to his quiz and to what he's been asking you. So let's go and have a look at and see what he's got.
And to Alicia, Barbara and Judy, spot on. It is indeed a low-felt gardenia. But I've now found a successful group of antlions, unlike the ones we saw earlier. Now, very seldom do you find more than one active, but here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 that have active antlions. And which one are you on, Craig? This one. Now, if you look, there's a small black dot in the center of that hole. That is actually the jaws of the antlion sticking out of the sand. Oh, he moved. He's covered himself up again. So he's just waiting for a poor unsuspecting. It would have to be a very small ant. I'm just going to try to see if we can get him to... Oh, no, that was too bigger. Okay, no, let's move on. Which one? This one. That one there. You got him? You can just see him there. Now, it's quite an art with small antlions to try to get them to think that there's a... They're not playing along today. I think they think I'm too big, which they're probably... Here you can see a successful group of antlions that have managed to find soft enough sand that they're able to build their little funnel trap, unlike the ones we saw earlier where they've tried to build a trap in ground that's too hard. Now, we've still wandering around the edge of quarantine, and we've come to a spot that many of you might know for 2 different creatures. Oh, but we're going to have to chat about that a little later, because it seems like Jamie is with some pachyderms.
Lovely Ellies, and what a lovely sighting this has been. I was just chatting a little bit with Herman about if I could bottle one smell, 2 smells, for those of you that haven't had the opportunity to come out here and to be on safari. 3 smells. Okay, I'll keep it to 3. If I could bottle 3 smells, one would be an elephant, the smell of their dung, the smell of their bodies, I don't know how to describe it. It's the most warming, comfortable smell. Cut grass, it is. It's like freshly cut grass, but better. It is one of the most magical smells out here. Elephant, black rhino, because black rhino dung, really honestly, if they would make potpourri, I actually have done this. The weirdest thing I will ever tell you, I made potpourri once out of black rhino dung. It was beautiful. I loved it. Didn't do wonders for my social life, but I will love it. And, of course, the smell of Africa after rain. We'd have to bottle that smell as well. We can't ignore that one. What's that called again? No, come on. Petrichor. The petrichor, the smell after rain. I've just seen about 10 bulls walk past this in this particular elephant herd. So the poor ladies are feeling a little bit of pressure here from all of these young boys. I was wondering whether or not we might encounter Daryl, since he has been about, but he hasn't popped out of the woodwork yet. He might be wandering a little bit behind. Generally the big bulls are right at the back. There we go. There's one last grey bottom disappearing off. What smells would you like us to bottle in the last few minutes of drive, or the last quarter of an hour of drive? What smell would you like to be able to put into a bottle and keep? And I'm talking about African smells. Wisteria is also a gorgeous smell. I like the smell of wisteria. The only reason I'm thinking that is because I just saw a wisteria tree. Definitely not, yeah, I don't know. I think wild dog would be a very niche market. Aaron? Good question. Do some elephants have a unique taste in food like human beings? I'm going to say I don't think so. I think that there are certain foods that all elephants prefer over other foods, and we're going to be approaching a dip, but I'm turning off away from it, so hopefully this won't lead to an attack of the gremlins. And see if we can catch up with the Ellies as they go towards Treehouse Dam. I don't think so. The older they get, we know about the fact that they wear down their last set of teeth, their 6th set of teeth, and they need to eat soft food, which means they spend more time on rivers. Generally, that's where you find the softest food. We know that during the summer months, during the rainy months, they like to eat the grass. That makes sense.
Well, guys, we're just coming towards the hyena den. So sorry about the signal issues. I think Jamie just went through a little bit of a bad spot there. But we're going to come and check the hyena den and see what's going on. Maybe we get lucky. Now, I see there are some hyena tracks on top of Jamie's tracks from this morning. So maybe they are lying here somewhere. Let's have a look. No hyena that I can see there. Let's just go around though. They often like to lie around the other side. Seems like Jamie's the only one that's had luck here with the hyena den. I don't know if Taylor's seen them yet. I certainly haven't. I don't think Brent has either. So it seems like Jamie is the lucky one. But I don't see any hyenas now. I just want to go a little bit more forward. There's like a little patch that they sometimes lie in. But alas, no hyenas today, unfortunately. They must have been here during the morning because, like I say, the tracks are on top of Jamie's vehicle track. So they may have come in and done their greetings and suckling while we've been driving around and while Jamie was with the leopard this morning, and that's why we've just mistimed this a little bit. It is getting quite warm now. The sun's getting up and it's getting quite hot in the sun. So that's maybe why they've gone back inside and try to get out of this sun and this horrible wind that is blowing. But I suppose at some point we will get lucky with this den. It's inevitable. Just got to persevere. But it feels like we're in a rut here. We keep coming to the den and no sign. I can see there's lots of tracks where they were lying this morning. Maybe they're actually lying somewhere close by here. Just with the long grass, it's actually quite difficult to see, and if there's small ones, it's going to be even harder, especially if they're lying off to the sides here. I mean, you can see the grass is almost the same length as the top of the car, so a hyena lying down is going to disappear inside there, as well as the little ones. But they've definitely been here this morning. Those tracks are from this morning. You can see where the wind hasn't even disturbed them yet, which is a good sign that they were here. So like I say, it's just about persevering and finding a way. Now we're going to just try and edge our way through here. Be careful, Dave. Alright, so while we try and negotiate the natural archway that we're in, let's go across to Brent and see what he's doing on his walk.
Well, hello. I was just having a little rest, like one of my favourite leopards. This is a spot where two of my favourite leopards have chosen to rest, but I'm quite jealous that Jamie got to see Shongile in this little hof in the Bushbriar site. It's a little bit small for me, but I think for Shongile it would have been just perfect sized. Now, let's see if I can manage to get out of here without losing my torch again and knocking my head. Here we go. Now, of course, one of my other favourite leopards I found doing this. Oh, in the sunshine, lovely. And of course, that was Mr. Quarantine. So both two sets of Kruger's cubs have utilised this man-made structure, the bush dinner site, to relax, recline and enjoy. Now, we don't use it that often anymore, but we have had some fantastic times here, and maybe we'll have to have another bushbraai one of these days. But anyway, it's always funny when you see leopards using man-made structures. Now, in other parts of the Sabi Sands, I've seen leopards do it many times. So at Singita, oh, but it sounds like the elephants are having a drink, so I have to tell you the story after this.
Just elephants singular, having a drink. I'm waiting for the rest of them to arrive in the hope that they might come and splash about in Treehouse Dam, which is looking fuller than I have seen it in a long time. I love sitting and watching elephants drink. The wind is starting to howl again, which of course always upsets the elephants, as they were yesterday. Look at his tail. Sorry, just have to draw attention to that. Methinks somebody stepped on that at some point. A little bit crumpled. Slightly skew. It's always so peaceful watching elephants drink. I'm hoping the rest of the herd is going to pop out because most of them have disappeared. But it seems as though this gentleman is the only one feeling thirsty enough to come down here. And unfortunately, I think it's still too chilly for them to go and have a swim. It really feels like the beginning of winter, you know. I know, obviously, it gets colder in other places. That sort of goes without saying. But for us here, it feels like winter. There's a very crisp bite to the wind. Ah, so talking about our smells, Christine and lots of other people as well, all saying you would like to bottle leopard urine, which of course, for those of you who don't know, smells like buttered popcorn. I agree with you on that, although at the same time, you could, if you wanted to fill your house with the scent of buttered popcorn, just make some buttered popcorn, and then you'd have buttered popcorn to eat and the smell. So I think there's a distinct disadvantage there. I also feel as though you might have a slight marketing problem there. You know, trying to sell a bottle of Chanel's leopard urine doesn't quite have the same ring to it as Chanel No. 5 or something similar. Imagine, you smell lovely tonight, dear. What is that? Leopard pee? You might need to remarket that one. I like it though. I love the smell of leopard urine. Certainly not as bad as lion urine. I think we can all agree that lion scat would be the last on our list. We've spoken about this before, but one of the things I would love to have would be a scratch and sniff book that could accompany these live safaris. So you could all go and get a scratch and sniff book, and then we'd say, you know, turn to page 394 and scratch and sniff. There you go, that's what rotten buffalo after 3 days smells like. And then you could all experience it with us. It'd be magical. Transport yourself and get the full olfactory and visual and audio experience. Speaking of olfactory, visual and auditory experience, our elephants have gone. Our bull has gone. Our elephants have not come out to go and have a drink. I guess in that case we'd better move on. That is sad. I was hoping they'd come here, but they apparently show no inclination of doing any such thing. Winter Prism! Good morning to you. I don't think leopards would be confused by the smell of buttered popcorn. It probably smells completely different to them than their own urine. So, no, I think that their sense of smell is so well developed. Ours, let's face it, our sense of smell is kind of basic. We have sacrificed the parts of our brain that were devoted to analyzing scents to other parts that we need more importantly. But animals like leopards have a far more acute sense of smell than we do. So no, I don't think that they would get confused by the smell of buttered popcorn. However, I do feel as though that is something we need to test further. And I think the only way for us to do that is for Wild Earth to provide us with buttered popcorn on every drive. Just in case, because we don't know when we're going to see leopards. So we should definitely, oh look, wonderful. We definitely don't know when we're going to see leopards, so we should probably have buttered popcorn on every drive. I'm just saying, as a contribution to the scientific community. Oh, by the way, Aaron, I was thinking about your question about whether individual elephants, or the entire herd pops out, whether individual elephants have a taste for certain food. Can I modify my answer slightly and say that there are elephants that start to associate people with fruit, particularly oranges. Elephants love oranges. All elephants love oranges. And there are certain elephants that start to really basically develop a taste to the point that, oh goodness, here comes another bull. That's why he's turning his head like that. Here comes another bull coming to drink, turning to face him. Feels like he's going to be pushed away. You can see that massively aggressive response from the older bull. Obviously with 5 legs, which adds to the impressive impression that he's giving off. Shaking his head, walking down. Just reminding the younger bull that he's the biggest guy here, and that he would like to drink in this exact spot, not any other. Despite the fact that there's an entire dam for him to go and drink at. That's what I love about elephants. Characters. Our treehouse dam is one of our cleanest water holes. The water here is really nice because, as Steph showed you, there's actually a spring that's welling up from the underground water. So it's really very nice. Oh my goodness. Did you have an itchy belly there by any chance? Who needs a trunk when you've got an inbuilt fly swatter? Megan's not amused. She's just saying she didn't see that. That is a really important aspect of elephant anatomy, because it makes sure that when they mate, the big bull elephants, don't injure the females. So it makes it quite a sort of perfunctory job, the whole thing. And then it's all over, because it wouldn't really make sense for them to have to try and spend time sitting on top of the female's back. So it's a very, very short process. I think you're being told to get out of the way, mister. Somebody is showing every sign of dominance possible. He's not in must or anything like that. He's just big. I mean, he's physically bigger than the other elephants, and he's older than the other elephants. He's just pushing them around. Yes, mister. Off you lot wonder.
Certainly got a much bigger pipe.
I'm not commenting on that. Here comes the rest of the herd. As the big bulls wander away, the ladies have decided it's time to come down slowly but surely. Oh, good morning to Brian. Yes, absolutely. The males will fight each other physically. If there is a female in estrus and you've got 2 big, evenly matched bulls, they can fight and they can kill each other. It can get to a really serious stage. So whilst they are very social creatures, they don't have territories. With any animal out here, when a lady is involved and when there's the prospect of introducing your genetics to the future generations, the males will fight. They will come into physical conflict with each other. And I think it was Mafufunyan. He was a big tusker in the Kruger. He had a massive hole in his skull that he could breathe through like a whale's blowhole that passed straight through to his sinus. And they think that that came from an elephant's tusk. Another big bull fighting with him. Sorry, I just wanted to... I can see Mike wants to come and... Mike? You're welcome to come and join me on the dam wall if you want. Okay. They've got to go and stop for some coffee, so they won't be joining us in this particular sighting. There we go. Come on, ladies. Come have a drink before the end of drive. You've got 3 minutes. Less than 3 minutes now. 2 minutes. Please remember that daylight savings is a thing and it is happening, and we will be feeding you further information as to how that impacts your drive times on social media. So have a look at whatever particular social media happens to take your preference. We will attempt to post upon it. Not Snapchat though, because none of us know what it is. It confuses us completely. Absolutely not a clue. I'm pretty sure safariLIVE does not have a Snapchat account. Give us time. We will. But yes, every other avenue of social media, we will be letting you know what the new times are for those of you who are affected by daylight savings. And I suppose, actually, at some point, our drive times are going to be shifting as well, but I can't tell you when that's going to be, so I'm probably going to confuse matter if I try now. Oh, it's in April. Well done, Meg. Thank you, Megan. Look at this little one. A whole new world to be explored. Yes, that leaf. He wanted that leaf. That exact one. What a gorgeous way to finish off our morning. I could sit here for the next few hours and just wait till the sunset safari, but I'll probably get into trouble for that. I believe I've got stuff to do when I return to camp. But if it were up to me, I would be sitting here for the rest of the morning. Right, and on that note, unfortunately, it is time for us to say goodbye to you all. It is the end of our sunrise safari, so a big thank you to Herman. First time. That was a really amazing job. I'm very, very impressed. And thank you to Megan, Kirsten, and Louise in Final Control. Most importantly, a big thank you to all of you for joining us, sending through your questions, comments, and of course, which scents that you would like to bottle and sell, perhaps, to the various people out here who perhaps don't get these fortunate opportunities that we do. We're going to watch our Ellies disappear. I'll see you on the Sunset Safari. Don't forget about Fireside Chat. Bye-bye.